All right, good evening, everyone. Before we begin tonight's town board meeting, I wanted to call attention to three remarkable young women we have in attendance tonight. It's not every day that we are fortunate enough to be in the presence of a gold medalist. West Hempstead resident Esty Ackerman won 2 gold medals and 1 bronze medal at the 2018 U.S. Open Table Tennis Championships in December. Esty's first medal win came in the under-20 girls doubles, where she and her partner, Linda Shue, took home the gold despite Esty fasting due to her religion. Her next gold medal win was arguably even more impressive, as she defeated 2-time Olympian Lily Yip 2-1 in women's hard bat singles. Esty is a 2020 Olympic hopeful and is the 23rd ranked player in the country. And Esty is now the #1 female hard bat player in the United States. Esty can be considered a ping pong diplomat and a ping pong black belt. Congratulations, Esty. We also have 2 scientific Olympians here tonight, both from Limbrook High School. Kaylee Houseknecht and Juliana Condileo were both participants in the Regeneron Science Talent Search, the nation's most prestigious college science competition. Kaylee's project was titled, forgive me, Disentangled Spatial Correlations in Inhomogeneous Materials with Shift-Invariant Artificial Neutral Networks. In layman's terms, her research pioneers the use of machine learning in the field of condensed matter physics and demonstrates a creative methodology for studying disordered systems in any scientific discipline. So really, your guess is as good as mine. Juliana titled her project investigating the novel role of the activated CDE42 associated tyrosine kinase, ACK1, in learning and memory using a DAC null allele in Drosophila megalogaster. Sorry about that, Juliana. Okay, in layman's terms, according to Juliana, she investigated the role of kinase in learning and memory in a fruit fly model. Anything you've ever thought about millennials can be taken back right now. But seriously, it's hard to not be immensely impressed with these 3 truly remarkable and awe-inspiring young ladies. With each of your incredible achievements, you make your family, your friends, and your town extremely proud. Thank you so much. Please come up, ladies. We'd also like to present a citation to Mr. Shanker, these young ladies' teacher. Please come up. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to this regularly scheduled town board meeting. For those of you who have never attended a board meeting before, we will first have public hearings followed by an administrative calendar. There are meeting agendas available in the rear of the pavilion. If you'd like to be heard on any matter, please fill out a slip and hand it to the public safety officer, who will hand it up to the dais. After the meeting is adjourned, the town board will remain in session, as is our custom, to hear residents who would like to address the board on any other matters outside the agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Ambrosino. Here. Councilman Blakeman is not here today. Okay. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Here. Councilman Dunn. Here. Councilwoman King-Sweeney. Here. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Here. Supervisor Gillen.
Here. I would now ask Councilman Diaz-Bazito to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
With your hand over your heart, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call our first public hearing?
Proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Bethpage.
I do not have any slips on this matter. Is there anyone who would like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Second the motion.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Ambrosino. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Councilwoman King-Sweeney. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Determining parcels benefited by construction or reconstruction of sidewalk area in Baldwin, Belmore, East Meadow, Elmont, Floral Park, Franklin Square, Garden City South, Hewlett, Inwood, Levittown, Merrick, North Baldwin, North Belmore, North Merrick, Oceanside, Roosevelt, Seaford, Uniondale, Valley Stream, Wantagh, West Hempstead, and Woodmere in the town of Hempstead, Nassau County, New York, adopting proposed assessment roll for the cost thereof and calling a public hearing thereon.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard?
Patty Harris, representing Nostrand Gardens from Uniondale. I would like to know what areas in East Meadow and in Uniondale.
Commissioner Toscano, could you please come and specify?
Good evening, Supervisor, Town Board. What this is, the residential sidewalks that were done, and now they're taking advantage of the sidewalk program that the town of Hempstead has. This is the assessment to put it on their tax rolls. I don't have it broken down individually by town, but I can get that and can give that to you after the meeting. Okay. Right?
So these would be individual parcels, is that correct?
Residential parcels, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this public hearing? Yes.
Rita J. Meriday, Baldwin resident. I too would like to know the locations of the specific parcels in Baldwin and North Baldwin. Also, I'm curious as to, I guess maybe it's because of the designation or how it's laid out, but where you have it listed as Baldwin and North Baldwin. I'm just curious as to why is it designated that way?
You know, I'll check into that. I believe it's because the contractors that we use, they separate these into parcels that they're working in certain areas at one time, and that could have just been a designation they gave that for an area, but I'll check on that, and I'll make sure that you get all the streets in Baldwin and North Baldwin.
Okay, and you mentioned contractors. Are these the contractors that you generally have kind of on tap, or?
Yes, we have two contractors with the town, and they went out to bid, and they're the ones that won the low bid.
Okay, so this is based on low bid. I guess this was prior to all of the new direction in terms of increasing outreach for veteran, minority-owned, women-owned, things of that nature.
These contracts have been in force, I believe, 2 years now.
Okay, but I'm saying, is the process going to be the same, or are we going to be looking at doing the process a little differently so that it is more inclusive?
I'm sure we'll do the process that will conform with whatever the town of Hempstead and the town board requires.
When do these contracts expire, Commissioner? Do you know offhand?
Don't know offhand.
So we'll get you that information as well, and then once the contracts do expire, they will go out to bid, and it'll be open and fair and competitive process.
Okay, and I'm just hoping that as far as the open and fair process, the actual outreach itself has to change. I mean, you can say it's going to be an open and fair process, but if you're utilizing the same type of venues and outlets, then you're really doing kind of more of the same. So I'm just hoping that we are looking at this from a more progressive, proactive, and open-ended scenario. Thank you. So otherwise, we're going to get the other information about the parcels. Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard on this public hearing? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. Madam Clerk, will you now call out the administrative calendar, please?
Yes. On the administrative calendar, there are items 3 through 29.
Yes. Supervisor, I have a hand up that I would like to add. Resolution authorizing extension of time for payment of real property tax by certain persons who are furloughed or non-paid federal workers or their spouses or domestic policies pursuant to Section 925-E of the real property tax law.
If there is no objection, this will be item number 30.
May I have a motion on the administrative calendar?
I move the administrative calendar, and it's entitled from 3 through 30.
Second.
Madam Supervisor,
Yes.
we have a motion on item number 3, basically adjourning it without date and referring it to the compliance officer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. I have a number of slips on the administrative calendar. Susan Goldstone.
Oh, Supervisor, one thing I'd like to do, please. I would like to recognize the fact that Rosa Parks' birthday was the 4th of this month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Goldstone, did you want to speak? I have you speaking on item number 8 on the administrative calendar. We've called the whole administrative calendar, so anything that's on the administrative calendar is open to be discussed right now. Yes. Yes, that's number 8 on the administrative calendar. If you would please just state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Susan Goldstone, 176 Waukeena Avenue, Oceanside, New York. I'm here because we're still Superstorm Sandy family that hasn't been home due to various problems, but there's been a lot of problems within the town building department. I have a whole thing to read. I doubt you really want to hear the whole thing, but basically it is inspectors have been sent to our house for the last 2.5 years after our contractor abandoned a job and disappeared. And approvals were made on work that has not been done. Every contractor we get to come back to our house wants to know who I know at the town to get all these things processed, because no way is anything completed in our house. Your office, I want to thank Mitch Pitnick and Rebecca Sinclair for speaking with me and seeing some of our papers. Councilman D'Esposito and Matt have been very helpful recently in getting John Novello to send our inspectors back. I don't understand how an inspector can come to a house and approve rough-in sheetrock, Fire X sheetrock in unconditioned spaces, framing, insulation, when you can just look at it and see that nothing has been, I don't say nothing is done, but everything is missing. Not one room is completed in the interior and exterior. And yes, I do have a claim in with consumers, but these reports are not being requested to give to consumers because I have an engineer and an architect who verified every single thing that's missing. I will say the plumbing department finally came back last week, and for the two and a half years that I've been complaining, they finally added the 22 additional items that I said were not roughed in. I mean, I know we're going to get a lot of flack now, and we're definitely not going to get home now. My father passed away. We lived in the house since 1956, and my mother's 88 years old and not in good health. We need to get her home. And I will say the other issues are with our other inspector, Doug Knabb, and Rebecca First, who has been absolutely condescending, rude, and has stopped us at every single corner to get home, making us jump through hoops and do things that were not per town code. And then when we asked for certain written letters that were required by New York Rising in order to get paid for driveways, the fill that we needed in our yard that she refused, and we had to get certain applications, and it turned out our neighbor 5 years ago or so had done the exact same thing illegally, which she admitted and told us to piggyback off their applications. We need to speak to somebody to make these corrections. And I will say, and I hate to say it, I really don't like to get someone in trouble, but Doug Knabb was, can I finish?
You can finish that
There
statement.
was a story in Newsday that he was suspended for doing the exact same things, like approving structural beams in a home that are not there.
Okay, so are you in favor of item
Oh, yes,
number 8?
I totally, there needs to be changes, there needs to be people moved around. I believe inspectors should not always have the same district or area that they go to. They need to go to different areas.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you
And-
for your time.
And if you would like to hand up that letter, you can give it to Michelle right here, Ms. Hanson, and she will make a copy if you wanted to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Liz Treston.
Yeah, let's do that. Can you stand here and hold the papers for me? Like be my Vanna White? Sure.
Honestly?
Yes.
No problem.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. I'm going to be holding this.
What do you need?
This and the whole stack.
You want the whole stack lifted?
Good evening, Elizabeth Treston, on behalf of the South Shore Recovery Coalition. I want you to vote yes tonight on this outside audit for your building department. There are approximately over 10,000 homes in the flood zone that has one floodplain manager and a small staff at your building department. You can hold those up, please. All of these papers, this is just half of what we consider PDA, and that's not public display of affection. That new acronym is preliminary damage assessment, and your community is unaware that they are in homes that are substantially damaged. This has led to numerous delays in permits to rebuild after Superstorm Sandy. decimated the South Shore. 6 years later, we had hoped procedures would be streamlined. Unfortunately, this is not the case. Please don't think I am here to demean anyone. Personally, there is a systematic flaw, as was addressed by Channel 4 news team. The PDAs are hidden. They do not appear in the homeowners' files. Some of your residents, your taxpayers, are unaware that they are living in houses in the town of Hempstead, and the town of Hempstead Building Department has deemed them yellow or red. That's the color coding used to signify a substantially damaged home. The SSRC, again, has been advocating on a volunteer basis with these homeowners. Some of you have been proactive in securing permits and expediting them, but how many more will discover when they go to do a home improvement that their house must become FEMA compliant? We estimate 8,400 houses have not filed permits. Any potential new homeowner can find themselves in the yellow or red category. And again, this is just half of the file. And every city, town, oh, sorry, I'm from a city. Every town is listed. These are your residents. These are your taxpayers. As an advocate for those in your community, I ask you to vote yes to the outside eyes to assess and to assist your building department to make it better for your communities before FEMA comes knocking during a CVA visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Treston, for your comments. And I just wanted to let you know we are moving to get all those notices, PDA notices, into each homeowner's respective files.
You know, I used to represent Wantor and Seaford. We hit pretty hard with that. And I got to tell you, there were unscrupulous contractors that took tons, all the people's savings, and they didn't have licenses, and they left. And the people that had worked for them, that did have licenses, didn't get paid because they left without paying anybody. So there's a big to-do going on with that, and I'm going to find out what's going on with it. It's no longer my district, but I tell you what, if you're telling me that this stuff still isn't done, I'll check it out. It might be the feds, it might be the state, it might be the county.
No,
I'm going to check it out for you. I'm going to find out.
I'm specifically talking regarding your building department. Contractor fraud, that's completely another issue, which also still needs to be addressed. But this is regarding number 8, and to have new eyes, thanks, looking at your building department. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Treston. Kevin Moran.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Moran. I'm a resident of the town of Hempstead. I live in Wantagh, 1407 Polson Street, but I'm here under the capacity as a representative for the Long Island Builders Institute. I just wanted to say that as an organization, we fully support the proposed operational assessment of the town's building department. Our organization has supported and worked with other towns who have taken similar procedures in the past to make their building department work at maximum possible efficiency. And we would like for Libby and our builder membership to be seen as a resource to the town going forward so that we can work together and make the building department as efficient as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. I will say that that is the goal of this RFP. It's not to cast blame on anyone. It is to take a fresh set of eyes and have them look at a department. Everybody can always do better. And I also like to point out that there was an RFP that was put out for this consultant. There was a selection committee that was established. Commissioner Rotkamp was the Commissioner of Buildings, was a part of the selection committee, as was representatives from the town attorney's office and the supervisor's office as well. We had 2 representatives from the town attorney's office. The process, there was an interview process that began in July. At that point, Commissioner Rotkamp was not in the interviews we came back, we brought everybody back again in August, again, and did a second round of interviews before determining that FDI was the right consultant. FDI is led by someone named, one of their experts is Patricia Lancaster, who was responsible for reforming the entire New York City Department of Buildings, which has quite an advanced, technologically advanced building department. So that was the process that was used in selecting this contractor. Anne Marie DeSalvo.
Good evening. My name is Anne Marie DeSalvo, 33 Harrison Avenue in Lynbrook. I just wanted to give my support for this project, for this RFP going out. I deal with the building department not only personally, I'm a town of Hempstead resident, but professionally as well. And I think anything that can help streamline this process, help homeowners as well as businesses move through this process at a quicker pace, I think is an absolute positive. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Robin Archibald.
Robin Archibald, 405 Winsome Avenue, Merrick. I am totally for your consulting firm. I feel it's completely necessary.
You're talking about for the building department?
Yes, for the building department. Unlike what Liz was saying, moving forward with homes that are now finding out when they get permits that they're substantially damaged. After Sandy, I was issued a repair permit for repair damage on my home that had over 5 feet of water in the house and everything was destroyed. Went through the whole rebuild between my own money and my flood insurance money. Inspectors came from the building department throughout the entire process, signed off on electrical, plumbing. At the end of the project, I came to the building department for the final inspection and my certificate of occupancy, and I was handed over a year later, after my house was completely finished, a substantial damage letter by Rebecca First, and was told, we will not give you your certificate of occupancy, you need to elevate your home. So this is why you need some kind of watchdog, something is, you can't have one person being the floodplain administrator, whether she had too much on her plate going, moving forward after Sandy or not, but, this whole process that you have needs to be changed. What I found out after, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
What I found out less than a year ago through an investigative News 4 report was I was given that PDA of mine, my home, and it was marked red. And still the building department issued me permits, and I was never made aware of my house being marked red, and it should have been torn down. The house should have been torn down at the time. And now I'm in the midst of raising my house, and it has cost me over $350,000 to do the elevation after several $100,000 to repair it after Sandy. So it's a lot of money, and other people are going to be affected down the road when they're told they have to elevate their homes.
I'm really sorry you had to go through this. I'm not sure where you live in Merrick, whether you're in Councilman Dunn's district or in mine.
I think I'm in yours.
Okay, presumably it's south because of you were impacted by Sandy. So if Marcus is in my office, if there's any help that he can give you now, I don't know if now you're on a track to completion, but if there's a way that he can help you, you can go see him right afterwards, and we'll try to move the process along as well.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Archibald, thank you so much for your comments, and I am sorry for all the difficulties that you've had, and that is the goal, to make sure something like this never happens again.
That's why I really hope this works out.
Thank you. Rachel Summerson.
Hi, I'm Rachel Summerson, 95 West Boulevard, East Rockaway, New York. I speak today in favor of this audit. I'm here representing those in the real estate field. Back in January of the year 2014, Rebecca first held a meeting with Sandy-affected homeowners. She said at that point that town files would be marked for houses in the flood zone where permits were not obtained, and future buyers will see this in their title searches. In September of 2016, the town building department came to one of our general meetings for the Bay Park Civic Association. There were town representatives there. I won't mention their names at this point, but at this point, people were finding out that they were buying houses that were affected by Sandy and permits were not obtained, and that they were told they had to go back and have a substantial damage assessment. Some people were finding out they were substantially damaged, others thankfully were not. We mentioned at that point, and we carried on, that they really need to do something about this system. Homeowners purchasing should not be finding out after the purchase. This happened again in February 2017, again in September of 2017, and then again in October of 2018. As a real estate attorney and an owner of a title company, I can assure you that the only way that we can find out about damage is talking to the homeowners. Or we can go in and ask for this preliminary damage assessment, but it is only if we know about it. It's not made public. It is not in the homeowner's files. There is no way for anyone to find out about this information unless they know about this internal memo, as they first called it. So I don't know that the audit will even find this, but this needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed now. It's been over 6 years since Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments. So just to let you know that when we found out about this situation, we have been taking strides to meet with LIBOR to make sure that real estate agents, my office has met with LIBOR to make sure real estate agents are aware of this issue and that they should look for these PDA notices in performing any kind of real estate transaction on the South Shore. We also have reached out to partners on the federal level to try to see if we might be able to find some funding to help some of these people who have been affected adversely by this issue. In addition, we took what was in a filing cabinet and we took it out and we digitized it in terms of the numbers of these substantial damage letters and these PDAs, and we are laboring to make sure that each one of those is put into the homeowner's file so that it can be easily found. And we've asked our building department to reach out to title companies to make sure that title companies are getting the information they need when they do their title searches. But I still believe that we can do more, and that's what we're looking to do. And that's part of the goal of this audit, is to find better ways to make sure we don't have mistakes like this happen again.
A couple months ago, I reached out to one of the research companies that does the searches in the building department, and they said they're still having trouble. They know that there's an issue, but nothing turns up that they can put on paper. So when people go to buy a house, it just shows what permits and what COs they have. It doesn't show anything about this PDA. It doesn't show anything about a violation or anything like that.
Well, we certainly want to make sure that that doesn't happen going forward, and we are doing what we can. If you have some suggestions, I'd be happy for you to reach out to our office and maybe give us some additional suggestions on what would be useful from your perspective.
Look into what Freeport has done. They have something when every title search shows that this property was damaged by Sandy and no permit was obtained, or what permits were obtained.
Okay, thank you. Mike Cassio?
Michael Cassio, 193 Bird Street in Oceanside. I'd also like to lend my support for this proposal to audit the building department. As both a contractor and a resident, I can certainly speak to the inefficiencies in the building department. That's not to say that over the years I've worked with a lot of good people in the department who are frustrated by the system as well. In addition, I'm also one of these people that was caught in these files. So I ended up getting my substantial damage letter in 2018. I know you guys are talking about addressing it. I would also encourage you to think about a pathway out for some of the people that are going to be caught in this. We're 6.5 years out from Sandy now. The idea that they're going to have to go back and tear up their homes to raise them now is going to be an immense challenge for those people personally, emotionally, financially, if there's no funding as well. I would hope that would be part of the audit as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cassio. Lenny Minervini?
My name is Lenny Minervini. I live at 272 Chestnut Avenue in East Meadow. I'm here tonight to support the review of the Town's Board Department. Anything that can make the process of building a home and improvements more streamlined and efficient can only be a benefit to our businesses and our community.
Thank you, Mr. Minervini. Susan Ryan? Thank you, Ms. Meriday.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Susan Gordon Ryan, and I live at 100 Inwood Avenue in Point Lookout. And I'm just here to support the idea of looking at the whole building department. We've lived in the town of Hempstead for well over 20 years, and have owned a house for since the 50s. And in our community, there was always an issue with getting a C of O. I mean, people automatically would be like, oh my God, how long is this going to take? This was before Sandy. It seems like the building department, and I can't address the way it's organized, but when there just doesn't seem, we just had our house redone about 2 years ago, and we were very fortunate we were not affected by Sandy, other than the normal hardships of, not having power for 2 weeks, but we didn't have sustained water damage. But there's a real lack of understanding how the process goes, how many fees are going to, be, what the cost of the different permits are when you're redoing. It would be helpful for the building department, after they evaluate how to be more effective for the your consumers. There's no listing ever of, what is it going to cost to kind of redo your house, and what are the fees. So at least it's kind of a menu for people to get when they are looking at their budget for their renovating of their house. Also computerizing, that was always a big issue before Sandy, is just trying to get your C of O's. You never know how long it's going to take. And again, it seems like there's very short staffing there. I don't know how the building department is organized, but it really doesn't serve the taxpayers in terms of that. The backlog after Sandy has really, really been difficult. You just never know when you're going to have people come in. Honestly, when I was trying to get the C of O's and figure out what was going on with permits for our house, the only name that ever came up was Rebecca. I don't know her, but it just seemed like she was the only one in the building department that could answer questions, which is really
about Rebecca first?
Yeah, that must be the name. I honestly don't know her, but that was the only name, and you always had to wait for her to get back in the office or be able to address it. That's just not an efficient way to run a department that big with so many people with needs. And especially, again, I was very fortunate, but people that are suffering, like I know Liz Treston had a terrible time with her house, and also the woman that just spoke. There's emergency situations, and there should be a way for people to be able to streamline, how they're going to get their answers to their issues, because it really is, devastating. And I know there are over 1,400 complaints, so it's really overdue to have this, look at the department. So I'll stick with my time here, but thank you, very much for this. Take care.
Thank you. Patricia Balassi?
I live in Point Lookout on Garden City Avenue. First, I want to commend you all for the ethics reform work that you're doing, and it's bipartisan, which is wonderful. And I hope it will continue with this problem, Resolution 8, that it will be bipartisan and people will work together. Also, it's important to have the consultants and reorganize, and some of these stories are just tragic. And I hope that this can be worked out somehow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blasey. Felix Procacci.
Felix Procacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square, New York. This contract to audit the building department is a long-term solution to fix the numerous problems in the building department. Before the town embarks on hiring another outside contractor, town officials need to fix the obvious problems immediately. It is important to note that this resolution is a reaction to the NBC News reports showing the incompetence of the town's building commissioner, John Rotkamp. A few years ago, it was brought to the attention of this board that Commissioner Rotkamp did not have the qualifications as stated in town code to be the town's building commissioner. After foiling all pertinent records, I asked for and received an official response from the town attorney's office. In the town's response, written by Chief Deputy Attorney Charles Covid, he wrote, in pertinent part, engaging in statutory construction is not necessary in this instance. Well, statutory construction is the process of interpreting the law as it would be interpreted by a court of law. So in layman's terms, Charles Covid is telling me and the public that it is not necessary for the town to follow the law as it would be interpreted by the courts. After the discoveries by NBC News, it is clear that Commissioner Rotkamp does not even have the administrative skills necessary to do the job of the building commissioner in such a way as to serve the public good. His incompetence was not without consequence. We know about the people whose stories that were reported on the news. How about the people who have already purchased a home or are going to close on a home tomorrow, who will file a permit sometime in the near future and are shocked to find that have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to have their house raised? Before more taxpayer money on another outside consulting firm is spent, the town should act quickly to ensure that more home buyers do not inadvertently purchase a house or close on one that needs thousands of dollars of unexpected construction. The first thing the town needs to do is put out a press release to all the major press outlets in the area, Nassau, Suffolk, and New York City, warning people thinking of buying a house in Hempstead that they need to get the property designation from the building department first, and this should be provided at no charge in accordance with the Freedom of Information law. We know for a fact that Commissioner Rotkamp knew about this problem since June 2018 and did nothing until he was humiliated 7 months later by the same reporter. He knew about a severe problem that would hurt residents, and he did nothing. In addition to not having the legal qualifications to be building commissioner, Mr. Rotkamp does not also have the ethical qualities needed
Mr. Procacci,
for the job either.
Mr. Procacci,
he knew about the situation that would hurt residents, and he did nothing.
Mr. Procacci, that's enough about Mr. Rotkamp's act.
It's all true.
You know,
Alan?
if I may, you know, you're laying it all at one commissioner's doorstep. New York Rising lent the money. They had a responsibility to make sure that the work was going to be done. You know, if I gave you money, I would say, what's going on? What's the process? Where's the progress? Right? New York Rising has some of the responsibility here. The contractors know the fees. So you say you don't know what the fees are going to be for this and that. And if you change what's happening, I know some contractors that the homeowner want to change this and that, and that's fine. So the fees changed. So the price they gave you in the beginning changed with the changes with the fees. LIBOR is not the only game in town. People, FSBO, they're for sale by owner. And LIBOR has no control over them. So they fix it up, make it look pretty on the face, and then walk away from the home, and it's still just falling apart. There's got to be a better way to put a red flag on all of these homes, and where when you do a title search, there's a red flag there and say, what's that red flag for? And you look it up, and therefore you see it. Does our building department need a larger staff? Absolutely. They're asked to take another 5% cut. How are we going to get a larger staff if they're getting a 5 to 15% cut in their budget? So there's a number of problems here that we have to address, and I really, truly think this is going to be one of the first projects that we're going to use our compliance officer. We just hired a guy. I think he should really get into this and look at it for us and go over the few things. There's just a few things that I've noticed that can be looked at that maybe resolve some of these problems. So we hired a great guy to do the compliance officer job, and hopefully I want to see what he does and how he comes to some kind of an answer. Even if it's half an answer, it's better than what we've got right now. The stories you're telling us, what I read in the papers, it's not fair to you. It's not fair to the people on the South Shore that I used to represent. We got to fix this, and we can't do it in the town level alone. We need the county and the state and the federal government that gave us monies. It happened all the way up and down the East Coast. I don't know how we should look into how they did it in Jersey, because Jersey got even more property destroyed than we did. So, yes, there's a tremendous problem, and I think this should be the first job of our compliance officer to look into this and see, yes, do we need more people in the building department? Can we do it differently? And go from there. So,
Commissioner Rodkamp, are you here? Commissioner Rodkamp? Is he here? Ms. Sinclair? Oh, Commissioner's here, never mind. Just a quick question, Commissioner. Did New York Rising have anything to do with the PDA determinations?
No. Basically what happens was these preliminary damage assessment forms were filled out so that Long Island would get money from the federal government declaring it a disaster. That's all these forms were done. When we went house to house, we went to 167,000 homes. And from the outside, most people weren't home because at that time, they didn't have power, they didn't have heat, and they were at work, and a lot of the homes were destroyed. So from the outside, we would look at the house and try to determine if it had some water, where possibly their boiler or hot water heater in the basement could have gotten damaged, so we put that as a yellow, or if there was high amounts of water in the home, where it would be designated as red.
Thank you.
The purpose of those were only really to determine so that federal money could come to Long Island.
Right.
As far as the homes are concerned, people are going to closings, so this information is available. It was always available on the computer. As far as some of the changes that were made, it is on the search sheets. There is signs in the building department and things that are known of it. When people apply for a house, they're hiring an attorney. Every attorney on Long Island knows of Sandy. Okay, so they know of Sandy damage. The real estate people know about it. The home inspectors, when you hire a home inspector that comes to your house to determine if there was termite damage and stuff, could see if there was water damage on these homes. So all this stuff is available to somebody who is purchasing the homes.
Thank you. So New York Rising had nothing to do with the PDA notices?
That is correct.
And New York Rising does not control the access to the PDA notices, is that right?
The PDA notices are on the computers. We had meetings with the title companies. We had meetings with Long Island Builders Institute, explaining the situations to them, how to do it. The real estate companies know about it, and all that information is in the computer. Again, the only thing that does is tell you that we think that there was substantial damage or moderate or no damage to your home. You
Right.
purchasing the home, or the homeowner that was there, is supposed to fill out a division of licenses. When you purchase a home, you have to fill out a division of licenses form through New York State. It's called a conditional disclosure statement. And in that statement, you're supposed to write down any environmental issues, any damage with the house, that you're supposed to let the new homeowner know. So that is also supposed to be done as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
I add, Supervisor, I did a tour of the building department. There are so many people there. They can, if you sneeze, they're going to catch it. It's so packed down there. There are not enough people. I know we're short of code enforcers. I think we're short 5 code enforcers now. We don't have enough people, and there is space. The communication department only has 2 people in it. There's no reason we cannot move them over to that area so that we can have enough space for them to work, because I can't believe what we have as far as all of those charts are concerned. If anything happens, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, so staffing is something that the consultants really recommend.
No, I can see it for myself. I mean, I went down and I saw it for myself. This is a hazard. It's a hazard. So why can't we just make more space for them? We don't have the space and we don't have the staff. So that's some of the problem. Am I right? How many of you have gone down and watched and walked through it? I have.
I definitely think that there could be structural reorganization that maybe our consultant could recommend that would make things flow more smoothly there.
We have a compliance officer. We need more people, and we need the compliance officer. That's why we hired the compliance officer for this type of thing.
Mr. Ra, excuse me.
Listen,
can we all speak one at a time?
I am.
Mr.
I'm
Dunn,
speaking.
the senior councilwoman speaking.
I'm speaking. First of all, I know we need help. Now, the first time I heard about whomever these people are that you planning to hire, I have never heard of them. I've never seen them. You know how I found out? In the newspaper. And I'm on this board, and you expect me to vote for someone that I don't know anything about. I think this is terrible. We didn't even you didn't invite us to the press conference. You did not send out a press release so that we could read it. And when someone did come, you took them into your, I don't think that's fair, Supervisor. And I think these people need to know that. They need to know what's really going on. And I'm sitting here holding myself because I don't want to say this in public, but I have to, because it's important that we do what's right for these people that live here in the town of Hempstead. So I'm still speaking. I'm still speaking, and you're doing that. That's not nice what you're doing. So, but the whole thing is, we have a compliance officer now. The compliance officer will go through and find everything that we need. We shouldn't do this. I'm telling you, it's not good, because you don't know who these people are. If I don't know who they are, how are you going to know?
Okay, so the RFP that went out for a consultant was published on our website. It was published on our website. If you visit our website, you could have seen the RFP. It was published, and then there was full involvement of department staff.
No way. Not one person from my office was involved in it. Not one person.
The commissioner of the building department was involved. 2 representatives from the town attorney's office were involved.
Was anybody from the town attorney? I don't want to do this in public, so please don't make me. All right?
I'm responding to your comments.
You're responding to me, but what you're doing is wrong. And how do you expect me to vote for someone who I don't even know who they are in the first place? We're all supposed to know what's going on in this town as far as the town money is concerned, and make sure that these people are the right people. We have a compliance officer now. We just hired them last meeting. Why can't we use a compliance officer to go through and help us get this thing right?
Mr. Ra,
I'm willing to go down there and work with them.
Mr. Ra, I don't have the resolution in front of me, but is part of the compliance officer's responsibilities to make recommendations about the building department?
I would think that, I don't have it in front of me either. I think the compliance officer is going to review contracts, and certainly this is a contract, so it could fit under his jurisdiction.
But we had Brad Regenbogen and Robert Norrie, both from the town attorney's office, as well as the commissioner, sitting in, experts on contracts and on the building department, sitting in and reviewing the different applicants. There were 3 applicants. One just responded for a financial audit, so they were disqualified because that's not what we're looking for. And then between the other 2, the consultant FTI that was chosen was with the commissioner's recommendation, because he liked their approach better, because it would be a more collaborative approach, not just coming in and issuing a report, but working with the officers in the building department in a collaborative way to try to find best practices, streamline efficiencies, and try to work together, because we can always improve things.
Well, listen,
and I'm still talking now.
Okay, as soon as you finish, I have a comment.
And so, I mean, the award of this RFP would allow for a full operational audit of our building department, bringing in experts with a fresh set of eyes and a fresh perspective to work with our staff to find the areas where improvements can be made and how we deliver services to our residents, to our contractors, and to developers. They will look at the entire department, the workspace, the staffing levels, the current technology systems used to determine where efficiencies can be created. I believe that this award of this contract would be a crucial investment in the future of this town and in the future of this department. Again, The building commissioner was part of the selection process. I was not part of the selection process. The building commissioner sat there with 2 people from the town attorney's office, and they all reviewed the applicants together and scored them and came to a joint decision that this was the right company to hire. Again, one of their chief people who will be working on this project, if they are hired, reformed the entire New York City buildings department. Our building department is one of, if not the largest in the country for this level of government. They process over 9,000 applications a year for new and existing home and 7,000 plumbing permits. Moving forward is simply a good thing to do that will benefit everyone involved. Every person who works in the building department, we want to make your lives easier. We want to make you have streamlined efficiencies. We want to make things easier for the commissioner. We want to get that fresh eyes to say, hey, why don't you try this? What do you think about this? Will this work for you? Will it not work for you? We want to work collaboratively with our building department to find ways to make it easier so we don't hear complaints. Trying to improve how we deliver services is what we're all here for. So I think that this should be an easy yes vote for everyone here. Our building department should be one that other towns want to emulate.
Listen, the only problem I have is I don't know who these people are. I've never seen them. I've never heard of them. The only thing I found about was in this newspaper, and that's not right. I'm a member of this board. I have rights for the residents that I represent, and all of us. And so, therefore, we are supposed to have the right to vote on whoever comes here.
And Dorothy, I invite you to meet with me every week.
No. It has nothing to do with this. You put this in the paper before I ever saw it.
Madam Supervisor, I have a comment to make. Madam Supervisor, I recognize the concerns of the citizens here. I commend our building department. Recognize that the primary jurisdiction of the compliance officer is in the awarding of contracts. I look at the 3 bids here. The low bid was for $30,000. The next bid was $39,000, and the recommended vendor is $155,000.
What?
$155,000 was the high bid. The low bid was $30,000. Both low bids were rejected for the recommended $155,000. That disparity in bid prices causes me great concern. I think this is ripe for recommendation to the compliance officer, so I move that we adjourn this item without date for recommendation to the compliance officer.
I second the motion.
Yeah, the $30,000 bid was non-responsive to the RFP because they were going to do a financial audit of the department. Excuse me, can you please conduct yourself like a gentleman and stop screaming at the dais? I just am clarifying a point that you made. The low bid of $30,000 was by Capital Market Advisors, and they put in a response to do a financial audit of the building department. That was not what was requested, so it was deemed non-responsive, and that's why it was rejected. The lower bid was for a different scope of work, and with the recommendation of our building commissioner, that's why they went to the FTI consulting, because it was a more comprehensive and collaborative experience of the audit. That's why that one was selected, not by me, but by the panel.
Never said by you. So I think those are interesting points that perhaps the compliance officer, when he's reviewing it, may ratify. So there's a motion on the table.
If I motion on the table.
On the table.
There's a motion on the table.
There's a motion.
There's a motion on the table. This is first, not with this one, huh? We got to do the motion first.
We still have people who want to be heard on this,
We
and
have
they
a
waited a
motion on
long
the
time,
table.
so I think that they should be heard.
But we have a motion.
And I'd already called Alan Kenowitz before that motion was made. Yes, I did. Alan Kenowitz, you can come up.
Wait, can I just,
I called Alan Kenowitz before this motion was made.
can I just make, can I just make a comment on the motion or wherever we are? I don't think we need to fight that much on this issue. I think there's a general agreement that we can always improve processes, and we have a bid on the table for 155. I understand the 31 was rejected, being non-responsive, and then was another one for 39. And it could be that 155 is the proper amount, but can we just adjourn this for 2 weeks, have the compliance officer review it, and everyone can get comfortable? I think we're all in agreement that we have some challenges, and the fact that in my district, I would say we have a bulk of the challenges, considering I represent all towns on the water. And I respect that, especially the woman from Merrick who spoke, who is in my district. Can we not just adjourn this for 2 weeks, take a deep dive into it? Ms. Meredith, totally, absolutely. But I'm just saying, before this devolves into something unfortunate, I'm absolutely absolutely vote on the motion. But I think we all realize there is an issue, and it's just the question is how we best handle it. You absolutely can speak. Promise.
Why don't we do the
Mr.
following?
Kenowitz, you were called before the motion was made, so you will have your opportunity to speak right now. Go ahead, please.
Supervisor, can I just make a comment since you asked me to come up? Again, you know, everybody knows that anything could be corrected, anything could move forward and have positive results. You know, as everyone is aware, that on December 31st, 2017, the building department lost 9 code enforcement officers. Since that time, we received 4 more, and we were still short 5 code enforcement officers to do the job. As everyone was aware, Sandy was an unprecedented storm that affected the town of Hempstead more than anyone else. The building department produced $6.3 million worth of free permits to homeowners on top of the normal work that we've done. Again, you know, if the issues are that the plans aren't being pushed forward fast enough, then obviously we need more plan examiners. If the issue is that we need more code enforcers on the street, then that's what we need. We were short inspectors prior to Sandy, and since January 1st, 2018, we're still down 5. So we did do $6.3 million worth of extra work with less people and all of our normal work that we've normally do as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. And again, the purpose of this resolution is not to castigate. It's to just work together to find ways to make things easier for everybody, for residents, for developers, and for the people who work there. Mr. Kenowitz, would you like to make your remarks?
Sure. My name's Alan Kennemer. I live at 263 Mercury Street, East Meadow. I'm also a member of the Long Island Builders Institute, so I'm speaking as a resident, also a member of Libby. You know, I'm not here to be negative, to point fingers. Everybody's saying the right things. We've got to work together. Everybody come together. It'll help the residents, it'll help the building industry, and help the employees that work in the building department. You know, there's constant changes, whether it's rules, laws, people, technology, and not to mention weather. You know, Hurricane Sandy put us in a tailspin, and we're still trying to recover from that. So being in the building department is not easy. We know it's not easy. It's constantly changing, and tempers flare. We know that. You know, you talk about changes. I was cleaning out my garage last weekend, and I found a floppy disk that goes in a computer. So I have a 14-year-old son. He says, "What is that?" I said, "Well, this is what we used to use in computers." He's only 14 years old. Look at how much change has taken place. Changes happen every day, and we have to grow with those changes. You know, my job, I get a review every year to see what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and what can I do better to make my job easier and better for the company. So I think change is good. Change is good. We just have to group together, come together, and make sure it's good for everybody. So I'm 100% in support of this resolution. Again, as Kevin stated, Libby is here to support you if we can aid you in any of that. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kennemer.
Madam Supervisor, I'd like to modify my motion. I think there's a motion on the table, and the parliamentarian should call it. However, in light of the majority leader's comments in deference to the people who came down, let's make the motion, call a vote on it, and then suspend the rules to allow public comment on the adjourned motion. Even though it's not before us today, we have to suspend the rules to allow public comment because the adjournment would preclude public comment, but that's not fair to all the people who came down. So I suggest we call the motion with the compound motion allowing public comment if the matter is successfully passed, adjourned, and referred to the compliance officer.
Thank you for saying it more eloquently than I.
Seconded. Is there a second?
Second, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Ambrosino?
Aye on adjourning this matter, referring to the compliance officer, and suspending the rules to allow public comment to accommodate the people who came down tonight.
I second the motion.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito?
Aye to what Eddie said.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye.
Supervisor Gillen?
I just want to be clear. I think the councilwoman said we would adjourn this for 2 weeks. Is that what the motion is?
I thought it was adjourned without a date. Madam Majority Leader?
Well, the next meeting, just so we're clear, next meeting is February 26th.
Yeah, I would propose to have it at the next meeting if the compliance officer who's here thinks that's enough time to review it. And if not, then we can always adjourn it
That's
again.
subject to the compliance officer being
Exactly. And I meant 3 weeks, not 2.
That's a reasonable expectation.
And I want everyone to know, I want the best for the town. But I do know one thing. We have to know who is coming here to do the work. We have no idea. We sit here, we have a vote. I don't know who they are. I have never seen these people. I don't know. Maybe they're the best ones. I don't know. But I would like to be able to see them, and I would like to be able to interview them. As a town board member, that's what I'm requesting.
Are we still in the middle of a vote?
Nope, we finished.
Supervisor Gill.
Did you vote?
I didn't vote.
Madam Supervisor?
I vote no on the adjournment because this has been fully vetted by our town attorney's office and by members of the building department who fully vetted this applicant and found them to be the most suited. I don't think the delay is in the best interests of the residents of this town, so I vote no.
Okay, but the whole thing is we all have a vote, and we need to know what we're doing. You know,
I agree.
We need to know what we're doing. That's why I am in place, not in place.
Yes, Mr. Ra.
Can we just be clear on what the motion was? Did we adjourn to February 26th, or did we adjourn without a date?
Mr. Ra, I believe it was adjourned to February 26th, provided the compliance officer completes his review by that time.
We just hired a compliance officer, so we should use him.
And it was seconded by?
I second it.
We've already voted on it. It's already done. Regina Datner.
All right.
Hello, Regina Datner, 1742 Harold Avenue, Wantor. I'm here as part of Team Purple. I'm a volunteer at the shelter. I love all the dogs, cats. I would like the resolutions 9, 10, 15, and 16 to get passed. The microchipping is an excellent thing for the dogs. We just had a case where a dog was found after 6 years because of the microchip. Also, I have to tell you, our behaviorist, Christy Fanti, has been working diligently with the dogs, unbelievable. She started an enrichment program, which has been fantastic for the dogs. And now there's a new program that they're thinking of called Dogs Playing for Life. I think that's excellent. Please vote yes for all these. As far as the adoptions, as far as, I'm sorry, it's been a long day. As far as Emily Tannen, she does a fantastic job with the rescue and getting the dogs where they should be. Staff is awesome. I'm there 7 evenings. I missed you the other day, Miss Gillen. You came earlier in the day. But I welcome anybody that wants to come in the evening and take a look at the dogs. That enrichment program has done very well. I go in the kennels every evening, and I don't even hear any dogs in there. Everybody's so happy compared to how it was. For some people that are here, I did bring some volunteer applications for them. If they're interested, we welcome anybody to come and volunteer and help us with the dogs and the cats. And that's all.
Thank you. Thank you for your volunteer work. Richard Shuren.
You have Pearl's name on there. You have Pearl on there. Pearl. Was she going to speak?
Richard Shuren, 167 Jefferson Avenue, Harbor Island, New York. I just want to say that the idea that you're waiting for a compliance officer to approve an RFP is a farce. This board operated for years without a compliance officer, approved dozens, if not hundreds and thousands of contracts without a compliance officer. You're approving contracts today without a compliance officer looking at it. The idea that a compliance officer is going to get involved in the RFP process when you have a committee that already, received the proposals, considered them, voted on them, and now you're creating a situation where you're pretending that a compliance officer would be involved in that process is just wrong and not right.
Mr. Chairman, we're not pretending anything. It's all on public record, and there's a $110,000 difference between the 155, which might be right at the end of the day, and the 39. So there's no pretend, there's no farce. The compliance officer is here. He will do his review, and we will give feedback. And what we're trying to do is, actually, this is like democracy and work. We're trying to salvage something, fully acknowledging that people have problems. It's not a farce.
It's a farce. It's the RFP was prepared. It was for everyone to see. It was voted on and considered appropriately. And because it wasn't presented by you, you refused to vote on it and refused to allow it to go forward. So the residents are going to have to wait longer and longer, only because the majority is not the ones presenting it. And, you know, it's ridiculous. And like I said, I'm an attorney, and I know, you know, the idea that a compliance officer is necessary to review this before you can vote, I mean, it's just a farce. And it's just something that you created in order to avoid having to take a vote today. And, you know, people should know that. And I just want to say, this has been going, the news, they had a news report on this. And the idea that you're all suddenly surprised that something is getting done. I mean, I would ask Ms. Gooseby, I mean, what was the board?
Excuse me?
I would ask you, what was the board doing? What was the board, the majority? What was the majority's plan to address this issue all this time? At least the supervisor is doing something.
What are you asking me? That's not the point. The point is, you are always. You see the amount of money, the difference there? First of all, I have
not a lot of money.
No, you asked me a question. I'm going to answer it. First of all, it's important to me that I know what I'm doing. I was elected by the people just for that. I don't know who these people are. I've never seen anything as far as I have seen anything. The only thing I found out about this was through the newspaper. And I'm not supposed to do that. I sit here as a board member who has a vote. And that's why I sit here. I don't do things. If I had done that, and it comes out wrong, you'll say, oh, you did the wrong thing. Okay, I want the building department to work well, too. That's why I went down a couple of times, and I've gone through it to see what's going on. They need more space, number one. They definitely need, everybody's sitting on top of each other. I invite some of you, you want to come down, Ms. Pearl, you like to see everything. You come with me one morning, I'll take you down there so you can see what I'm talking about.
Just saying.
Okay, some of you need to see that. But first of all, I want it to work efficiently, too. But I want to know who the people are we are hiring.
Councilwoman, since that newspaper article came out, you never contacted me once to ask me anything about this.
Why would
Let's just be clear.
No, why would I?
Why would I? If you said you have no information, you could have asked me.
First of all, you know I wasn't here. I was away burying my brother.
Listen, I just want to say, the people that know how process works and how this works, you're not fooling anyone, okay? You could pretend that this is, you're not fooling anyone.
Ms. Gooseby, did you meet every single vendor who ever did a contract with the town of Hempstead? Did you meet every single vendor that ever did a contract with the town of Hempstead? Did you? You met every single one of them.
It's a very important thing for us. I know all these people need their homes done properly, and we just passed an ethics law, did we not? We have one that's going to be, we're going to do. Okay, but we're doing it now. We worked hard, so we got it.
Senior Councilwoman, did you meet with every vendor before you voted on every contract in the town of Hempstead since you've been here?
No, not all of them, but I knew about them before they came in the newspaper.
Okay. Diane Madden?
Diane Madden, Hempstead. Item number 10. Could someone please tell me, with regards to the, and I did speak to officials, but I just wanted to be clear and have some things on the record, but with regards to the euthanasia by owner, is this eliminated from the fee schedule entirely?
Yes. Mr. Lackaruba, would you like to explain?
Good evening. Yes, this proposal, this resolution would eliminate the euthanasia fee. any animal that is surrendered to the shelter upon evaluation, if it's deemed, whether it's for medical reasons or other, the shelter would have the right, once the animal is in their possession, to euthanize anyway.
Okay, so to be clear, if an owner is looking to turn in a dog for whatever reason for euthanasia, you're saying that is, they still sign a euthanasia record? They're just not charged for the euthanasia?
I'm saying that this proposal would say if you're looking to just have your animal euthanized, you should go to your veterinarian. If you're surrendering the animal, surrender the animal to the shelter. If there's a medical issue or other issues with that animal and the determination is that it needs to be euthanized, the shelter will do the euthanization just as a humane process.
Okay, so the animal will then intake if the owner is intending on euthanizing the animal, and then the shelter then determines that?
They do that anyway.
We're doing this because we're a no-kill shelter. Is that correct, Mr. Lagaruba?
It's part of the reason, yes.
Okay, so I just want to understand that the public can still go to the shelter. Is this still a service, or is this no longer a fee, and then the shelter determines who gets euthanized?
I guess it's not an encouraged process at the shelter.
Okay, so the service is no longer there, is that correct? I mean, I support that. I'm just
If an
trying to
animal
be
it
clear.
needs to be euthanized for whatever reason, it'll still happen at the shelter, yes.
Right, okay. All right, and then, thank you. Item number 15. I just wanted to thank the board especially because if you recall several months ago, Laura Gillen put up a resolution to charge the taxpayers somewhere between $9,000 and $10,000 for training that is available through grant money. And thankfully, the Animal Farm Foundation has now provided that grant money. There are, by the way, millions of dollars in grant money. Smithtown just secured about $200,000 for TNR. So I do support this resolution, and I encourage the training. Certainly, the volunteers need more training, retraining, and this is a program that will benefit the animals overall.
Thank you. Rebecca Sinclair is the one who got that grant.
Well, I would hope so. I mean, you know.
Thank you, Ms. Sinclair, for making sure we can bring this important program to the town of Hempstead and for all that you've done to help our animals. Thank you, Ms. Sinclair.
Well, that's interesting because Stephen Rickard has been with the animal shelter for probably 20 years, and he's secured many grants, but he's a Republican, so you may not want to thank him. But I would like to thank Mr. Stephen Rickard, who works at the animal shelter, who has secured many grants for the animals, particularly the cats, although you wouldn't point that out because you're a divider. Item number 16, again, and this may be a question for you, Mr. Ra. I just wanted to clarify, this is terrific for the microchipping, but again, we discussed this regarding the, hopefully not circumventing the spay-neuter law that is in place, the mandatory spay-neuter.
No, it will not. It does not supplement. It does not get, the spay-neuter law is still in effect.
Right, it's in effect, but for this particular microchipping through licensing and renewal, does that indicate that some of these animals will be scanned immediately if they're found, the owners are located, they're immediately returned, or do they go through the process of intake and through the mandatory spay-neuter?
Okay, well, first of all, we did not discuss this. Maybe somebody else.
One of the town officials, right.
Okay. I don't know, I'm sure the department will get the system, come up with a process for the spay-neuter and microchipping. I'm not aware of how they're going to do that, though.
Right, because the issue that arises if the animals are returned through the microchipping, this particular service, that really is contrary to trying to humanely deal with the overpopulation of pit bulls. So that's the concern, and I did deal with one of the officials, not you. which, I was told was going to be clarified through policy and procedure. It's not in this written resolution. It's very important that it is. But I did not check the resolutions at the last minute to make sure that that's the case.
Thank you for your comments.
Can I just clarify that, Supervisor? So
Sure.
currently, there are no chip readers with the ACOs in the van, so this resolution to promote microchipping animals is still a good thing. We want people to chip their animals for all sorts of reasons. While we work towards getting scanners for the trucks, we will work with the town attorney's office and the shelter staff to make sure that the spay and neuter laws are enforced and that that's not impeded.
That they're not circumvented at all.
Correct.
Very good. Thank you.
Valerie Lamp.
Valerie Lamp Baldwin. First of all, I just had a question with regards to the compliance officer. What is this person's name?
Tom Wildig.
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 He's right behind you if you're standing up, if you turn around.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay. Secondly, I commend the board for tabling the vote with regards to the audit, especially because of the huge discrepancy amongst the bid awarded versus a potentially $100,000 plus savings. I know everyone gets up in arms with regards to contracts and making sure that we're not just handing off $155,000 if we can get the same work done for a much more reasonable price. With the shelter, I'm thrilled actually to see the items on the resolutions. And while we're on the topic of thanking people, you know what? I look at things from, I hope, an objective standpoint. I sit back and I learn from people and I listen. I never claim to be an expert. This is something I learn about every day, animal welfare. And I've met a lot of great people who I consider to be friends now. Diane Madden, I want to thank you for not only writing legislation, but also for alerting the board months ago to the fact that we did not have to spend $10,000. Had she not interfered earlier, that money would have been spent. I also want to thank her for alerting the supervisor to the forfeiture fund, which saved a lot of animals after a hoarding case, because no one thanks her for all of her knowledge and expertise, which she has lent to you and shared for the best interest of the animals. She also shared earlier during your first few months of your administration her knowledge and expertise with Rebecca Sinclair. So Rebecca, although you were acknowledged, you should thank Diane Madden for sharing her expertise with you. Okay? Let's be fair. And while we're at it, the volunteer program at the shelter, someone mentioned grabbing a leash. I've heard that line before. I want to say this. I'm happy to grab a leash, and I've said this publicly before, as soon as you fix the problems that stem from the top. The mismanagement, the abuse, and the patronage jobs.
4 votes.
Which you campaigned on.
4 votes.
Are you saying now, because last time you backtracked
4
and
votes.
said, okay, keep repeating yourself. I'm going to keep repeating myself too. You campaigned on abuse, mismanagement, and patronage jobs. Your words. 2 meetings ago, you tried to backtrack with an oopsie, I was on the outside. You don't get to do that. You don't get to take back and backpedal on your words.
Thank you for your comments. Pat Poulos.
I wasn't intending on speaking, however, when I heard such bad stories about the building department and concerns with some of my neighbors, I wanted to say something. So I live at 3352 Bayfield Boulevard in Oceanside. My councilman's not here. When the storm hit in 2012, I reached out to FEMA and the Freeport Rec Center, and they were my main advisors. And I elevated my house. I actually dealt with Becky first in December of 2012, and I had to prove to her that I was substantially damaged, because when I did my homework with FEMA, I indeed was. My house was lifted, and I was back in my home in September 2013, before New York Rising got a chance to even visit my house. They weren't two together. But what I wanted to share, and Becky first helped me get a permit. It was a messy situation for everyone, but she really did help me. But what I wanted to share was, as I learned more about my flood insurance costs as a community, I spoke to Linda Reed in person, who I don't believe is any longer involved here, but a lovely woman, and I explained, or I asked, why is the town of Hempstead, largest probably in the country, with a huge flood map within it, not part of the community discount program for FEMA? Because, and it's based on how many substantially damaged homes you have or substantially improved homes you have. It makes a difference for flood insurance for someone who's paying $4,000 a year versus $300 a year. And she reached out to Becky first at the time, and the answer, which came back to me within the hour, was, well, FEMA's dealing with the smaller municipalities now, and they don't have time for us. And I said, well, now is the time, because everybody's dropping their money and doing all these things to fix their houses. So you don't want to hear 2 years later that your house needed to be elevated so that the entire community could get a community discount on their flood insurance, which long-term, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years out, will have a huge economic impact on the town of Hempstead. So I'm sorry that it wasn't picked up on at that point, but I will tell you, on a completely side note, I have 40 seconds left. Anyone who's able to do this job for $30,000, I don't believe it's possible. I just want you to, look at what they're actually able to do and what they're not able to do, or what they promise. Because this is a very large project that really needs to be done correctly. And on Long Island, I'd be impressed for anybody to do that job for that little.
You're talking about the consultant.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the information that Linda Reed gave you was the information that was at hand at that time.
Correct. And
Since then,
nothing-
things have changed, but she did a great job. She really did.
Well, this was back in 2013.
Back then, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Thank
all right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'd like to add, I have the utmost confidence that the selection committee really thoroughly vetted these vendors and really did a good job to ensure that the taxpayers' best interests were going to be served by the selection of FTI. Marcia Berrios.
To lower this. Marcia Barrios, 9 Forge Lane, Levittown. I would like to talk about the animal farm program. I bet you knew that already. So, first, I'm going to disturb a few people behind me with what I'm going to say now, but I have a point to make. And I'd like to just say that you are not your dog's mom or dad. And your dog is not your baby or your fur baby. Dogs and humans are two separate species, and they behave very differently. We have a wonderful relationship with dogs, a magical relationship with them, but they're different. They play differently with each other than they do with us. They can relieve each other's stress in a way that we can't possibly do. And they can relax together in a way that we can't do with them. So I think this Play for Life program will be a wonderful thing to get enforced at the shelter. And I think it'll benefit us in many ways as a town, as a shelter, as a community. First of all, it'll give the dogs to, how can we say this, to let the real dog emerge, because they'll be able to do the things that they can't do while they're in cages. Our building is not a good building for long-term residence for dogs, because we have a tiny aisle with dogs facing each other. This is very, very stressful for dogs. It's not a good situation. They could see each other, but they can't interact, which is very bad for dogs. So if they could get out of that into a play yard where they could become the real dog, just like the inner dog comes out, there'll be more opportunities for them to get adopted because they'll be able to go into homes with another dog at home, which that a lot of them can't do right now because they're not properly socialized to each other, and they can become properly socialized with each other. The other thing is, by relieving the stress that this is going to do for them, it'll bring down a lot of medical issues which are caused by stress, because just like people, a lot of stress in dogs will present a lot of medical issues because of that stress. So that's another advantage. And there's a third advantage for this grant, actually, which I don't know if people have thought about, and that's when people look at an application for a grant, they look at what other grants have been given to that entity in the past. Whoops, I'm sorry. But we could get more grants, is what I'm saying. Could I just have one teeny second?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm thinking of in grants, and I talked about that last time, is what if we could get a grant for artificial turf in the play yards? And I did, this is my little prop. This is what we have now in our play yards. It smells a little bit. It's not poop, I promise you. But these are the tennis balls that we have now. I wrapped them in 2 bags because I didn't want everything to get all filthy. These are our tennis balls, guys. Perfectly good tennis balls, 2 or 3 times thrown in the play yard. This is what they look like.
Okay.
And this is a toy that was brand new. People donate these things. It costs a lot of money. And I'm sure it's not very healthy for the dogs. It's not very good for them to be running around. It's not very good for us. So, and then what about solar panels? Maybe we could get a grant for solar.
Okay. Thank you. We will take your wish list and try to look for some grants. Thank you, Ms. Barrios.
If I may, Marcia's met with me a number of times in Levittown, and I've never met anybody who's been so, with my office, with my staff also, and she's got common sense. You know, the play yard is such a great idea. She does her homework. She's very, very passionate. She really does a lot of research on animals, and what a great spokesman. I'm so glad you came down tonight, Marcia.
Barbara, I'm sorry, I never say your name right. Tell me how to say it. Trevelise.
I'll make this quick. Barbara Trevelise, Merrick, New York. First, I'd like to thank Supervisor Gillen, this board, and everyone involved for the new awning being installed over the outdoor exercise pens at the shelter. I was so excited when I saw that today. The dogs will now have shelter from the rain and sun when they are out in the pens. We've been asking for this for years, and we are so thrilled that it's finally getting installed. Regarding resolution number 16, free microchipping program for dogs upon licensing and or renewal. This resolution provides for free microchipping voucher for all dogs being licensed within the town or having their licenses renewed. This is a great idea, and I strongly support this resolution with some modifications. Just this week, a family from Queens was reunited with their dog Milo, who went missing 6 years ago, thanks to a microchip. But in a case such as this, a family from Queens would not register their dog with the town, and therefore they would not be eligible for this free microchipping voucher. In order to have more pets reunited with their owners, I feel that all dogs and cats should be microchipped before leaving the shelter, rather than just the ones that are being licensed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anita Meride?
Rita J. Meride. First, I had a question, and hopefully my time can be saved, because I need more clarification on what the additional item number 30 was. That was an add-on.
Dorothy?
Can you talk to the microphone? Thank you.
It has to do with the fact that many of the residents within the town of Hempstead work for the federal government, and they were laid off, TSCE, and so they were not paid. So therefore, they're behind as far as their mortgages and so forth are concerned. So we're asking that the governor sign into law on the 1st of this month that we would be able to delay the payment for those who are available as far as their taxes are concerned. Taxes are due on the 10th of this month. If you don't pay your taxes on time, you know that you have to pay a penalty. So what we're trying to do, this board, I'm sure they'll pass it, is to make sure that they get 90 days reprieve. So that's what that's about.
Okay, perfect. I just need clarification because I had asked at previous meetings when you have these last minute add-ons for whatever reason. I'm not trying to question, I'm not trying to judge. It just makes it difficult for residents to understand what is being presented if we're just hearing about it and then you kind of go into.
Well, we couldn't do that before because it was just passed by the governor on the 1st of this month. And we want to do this because if we wait for the next meeting, it's past the 10th.
Right.
Past the 10th, so that's why it has to be done.
Right, it just meant if there were copies of those handouts so that residents could have that. Just a suggestion. With regard to item 8, I am definitely appreciative of the discussion because I think the public really needs to hear these things that are being discussed. I also thank Senior Councilwoman Dorothy Gooseby for mentioning the fact that on the 4th would have been the 106th birthday for our legendary icon and activist Rosa Parks, and that's why I wear this hat during the month because it basically speaks to her activism. And I had handed out the article that you have, The Truth About Rosa Parks and Why It Matters to Your Diversity Initiatives. I distributed that. That was from me. I'll bring that up in public comment. Okay, so I think that we do need to give the compliance officer an opportunity to review these types of scenarios, what has happened in the past, and I was one of those who 2 supervisors before you sitting there brought up the issue that we needed a compliance officer, the same way that I advocated for the county and they finally got an inspector general in the county. So these are things that we definitely need. I appreciate your efforts to bring in some outside viewpoints, but I do think that we need to work with what we have internally just to give them a chance to try to move those things forward. As I've stated before with regard to a number of these contracts, I would like to see at some point where it is an MBE or a veteran-owned business listed in that. I'm still very disappointed with the slowness of the process of including veteran-owned businesses in the outreach process, as well as minorities and women-owned businesses who also live and struggle in this township. So again, I am looking forward to seeing that question. The number of items that are listed here for the animals in the animal shelter, I think it's definitely commendable and admirable. But again, the invisibility and the lack of these same types of programs and services for our veterans and their families continues to be a disservice. I don't know how many ways I can say it, how many times I can ask for it. And I had mentioned it a couple of other meetings, and I think that Councilman Dunn must have misheard me when I was not saying to park a mental health van or anything in front of a veteran's house, but a mobile help. We have vans for everything. We need to start doing something that's a little more mobile, a little more flexible, a little more accessible, and on a continuous basis for our veterans. Thank you. And this is one of those few times I stayed within 3 minutes. Thank you.
All right. Is that it? Any other comments? Wait a minute, is it, no, I'm looking for the, I don't know what this one is for. These are ethics, right? That's the ethics. Oh, okay. All right. Kevin from Syosset. Let's see you later. Right. Okay, you're asking about the ethics? This is going to be on, we're just putting it on now for public hearing. It's going to be on the 26th. Okay, that's when you'll discuss it. That's when it will be discussed.
It's just about the date.
The date is the 26th.
I understand, but it's an item here, and I have a right under the open meetings law to comment on this.
Not today, not tonight. You'll do it next week. The next meeting of
You can
26th, that's
comment
when
on
you
the
come in.
date. It's being called for the 26th. The resolution is calling for a public hearing on the 26th. If you want to comment, so you can comment on the date that it's being scheduled.
No. Would you please lead the, you know better, Felix. Okay.
Gentlemen, do not touch him. Do not touch him.
And we do have to bring out that law that we have from the state of New York.
Respectfully, why then is it on this? When I walked in the room an hour and a half ago, the woman at the front desk asked me if I wanted to speak on any of these resolutions.
The
So
resolution,
why is
yes,
it that
but
why can't I, you don't even know what I'm
because
going
it's
to
calling
say.
for a public hearing, sir. It's going to, you'll have an opportunity to read about it.
Why is it on here?
It's calling for a public hearing. We have
I
not
understand
published
that.
it yet.
I understand that, but it's on this agenda today.
That's right. It is because
Sir, do you have a concern about the date of the hearing, or is it about the actual ethics package?
I have no idea what the ethics package is. Why don't you just let me spend 1 minute and say what I want to say?
I'm just telling you what the rules are, that's all.
Okay,
If
well,
you'd
let me
like to
talk
speak
about
on the date, that's what you speak on now. If you'd like to
Let me-
speak on the
let me
ethics
then talk
package,
about-
you
let
could
me-
speak about it under public comment.
Councilman,
I
if I
understand.
might, sir, you could also speak at
Mr.
public.
Attorney, could you just tell me if I can't, I'm very familiar with the open meetings law. Could you tell me why it's on today's calendar and why I can't say something about it?
I'm going to mention two things to you. Number one, the resolution on the calendar today is to call a public hearing on the 26th. You can speak on whether or not you think the public hearing should be on the 26th, or you can talk about the date, or you can wait until the public comment section, which is going to start in a little while, and you can speak at that time on anything you want. So nobody's going to prevent you from speaking. But right now we're talking about the items that are on the administrative
You
calendar.
still didn't answer my question.
I just did. I told you can speak at public comment. On that item, you can speak on public.
Speak now. Why is it on the resolution calendar?
It's a resolution calling a public hearing for the 26th. Well, speak on that.
That's what I'm going to speak on.
Speak on the 20, okay, go ahead.
would you like, is it, you don't like the 26th? You want to change? What is
No, it
it?
has nothing to do with the date. You're spending more time telling me that I can't speak. Why don't you just let me speak?
Under public comment, right now.
I don't have time for public comment. I can't stay
Okay.
till public comment.
All right. Sir, I'm sorry. Miss Rory Gordon?
3 minutes ago.
Rory
Let me,
Gordon.
you know what? Could you, since you wasted my time here, could you
Rory
reset
Gordon?
that to 3 minutes and I'm going to speak on a different resolution?
No, sir. Miss Gordon is next. You want to speak on this? I'm telling you, this is calling
I'm not
for
going
a
to speak
public
on this.
hearing.
I'm not
But what-
going. I accept your ridiculous, whatever. I'm not going to speak on it. I want to talk 3 minutes about a different resolution.
All right, go ahead. What is it? What's the resolution?
I'd like the supervisor to be here. I don't know whether
Not
she
here
can hear.
right now. I'm taking charge because she's not
That's a
here.
scary thought that you're taking charge.
I'm glad to hear that. That's
Your
nice.
time is running, so I think
The
you
time
should
is
speak.
running.
I just want to let the town board know that I'm from Syosset, obviously, and I'm the Felix Procacci of the town of Oyster Bay.
Oh, really? Well, then why are you speaking?
My name is Kevin McKenna.
Oh, I see.
And I have to tell you that walking in here, I'm really impressed with a lot of the ways that you do things here, especially when you walk in having two nice ladies at the desk saying that you could sign these sheets and you could speak about these resolutions. And I'm also very, very happy. I'm also very, very happy to hear a town board that speaks, that has thoughts and speaks. I was very, very, being an outsider and not coming here, it's so obvious. It's so obvious how you had to figure out, and believe me, I'm not pro Laura Gillen or Republican or Democrat, but it's so obvious how you needed to nitpick on this supervisor that explained to you the reasons why the prices will lower and told you that you're able to meet with her that you're able to meet with her on a weekly basis and you chose not to do it. Why don't you explain to the public here why you chose not to meet with the supervisor rather than wait for the meeting in order to stand there and say, I saw this in the newspaper. Why didn't you call her up and talk to her?
All right, you got to
That's
go,
totally
sir.
ridiculous.
You got to go. All right, Ms. Rory Gordon.
I actually want.
We have rules and regulations that are governed by the state of New York.
You wasted
Freedom of love.
I wanted to compliment the supervisor on what she's trying to do with all you other
Goodbye,
people
sir.
that
Your
are
time is
flawed.
up. Okay, Ms. Rory Gordon. That's another.
Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Dealing with crooks, would you let him get by with that? Who's a crook? I'm not. Here. That wasn't nice of you.
Thank you for your comments.
No, you called me a crook. Then you thanked him for it.
Ms. Gordon.
Gentlemen, I think he's waiting until.
What are we waiting for?
I'm here to speak on item number 8. The Commissioner and the Town Board were made aware of the Building Department's situation as of June 2018. The town has not implemented a plan to rectify the approximate 12,000 homeowners whose homes need to be raised or are in violation. A meeting is taking place with title companies according to NBC's Ms. P.Z. Chang's report. What happens if I decide I want to purchase a home in Merrick and have narrowed it down to 3 homes? If I was the average Joe, how would I know what to look for? On that score, I am passing up to you a document from the Committee on Open Government. Could you take care of that, please? Thank you. It is an advisory opinion. The town of Hempstead is charging constituents $25 to obtain a search sheet or certified certificate of occupancy where the charge is 25 cents per page. The town is violating state law. The town has done nothing to make the public aware their homes are in violation. What about people who are closing on homes tomorrow, or individuals who have renovated their homes now to find out, after New York Rising has closed out funds, that they are responsible to spend a minimum of $100 grand to raise their domiciles? Not only are all 3 commissioners culpable for this egregious situation, the town board members are guilty as well. I have not seen a press release, a mention of this issue on any of the town board members' Facebook pages or on the town website. Besides Ms. Chang's stellar investigation, where is the media on this? The town board provides for all records of any kind, whereas the building department must, but fails to meet laws set forth in Records Retention and Disposition Schedule MU-1, New York State Title 8 NYCRR, Appendix H, Section 185.11. It is so pointed as to the responsibilities of the employees of the building department. It even covers the way the files are to be documented down to the format and the size of the font. Preliminary assessments notices were not entered into the computer system. If Commissioner Rodkamp has excellent computer skills according to his resume, why didn't the town of Hempstead set something up immediately following Sandy? Being in his position since 2007, I find this appalling and unacceptable. Has the Department of State been notified of the severe mismanagement of the building department? Why isn't the Department of State sending forensic investigators to sort out all the malfeasance of the department? It is long overdue. The building department must be put under state investigation. To simply rewrite town code, as suggested in Ms. Chang's TV report, is just a quick fix. I don't believe any of you should be given a pass, whether you're on the board or you are in the building department. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Gordon. Mr. Greenfield, Jeffrey Greenfield.
Jeff Greenfield, citizen taxpayer, 66-year resident of the town and Rockville Center, 44-year first responder, 44-year insurance professional, past president of 3 major insurance associations. I haven't been here in a few years. I enjoyed the spirited debate. Dorothy, I'm sorry that individual attacked you. I applaud you and commend you for upholding your duties as a senior council person on this board to make sure before any money is spent and any decision is done that there was a thorough vetting of it by you and other council people here. I think that's fine. And I don't know why it called for that. And I was offended being in the audience. I've been attending public meetings since I'm 16 years old. It's not necessary. I'm here seeking a redress of my grievance with respect to the way I was treated in the RFP process. And unfortunately, during the RFP process for an insurance consultant, there was no spirited debate. So I can't be here on the 26th because I have an elderly mother in Florida, and I commute back and forth to take care of her needs. So I know it's not the proper time for the public hearing, just a few comments with respect to that. I was solicited by Adam Haber to put in a bid on consulting for insurance. I questioned the process before I went through the time and effort to put in the bid. I was told that the 2 low bidders would be interviewed before the selection was made. I was never consulted for an interview. I was never asked for an interview. I was sitting on a flight delayed in Charlotte Airport, and I'm reading the town board agenda and found out that you already voted. That's no way to treat anybody with respect to consulting contracts anytime. So what you did today, I applaud. Also, I have some questions with respect to the ethics law and how it's going to treat consulted. Let not the audience rule me out of order. Let the town attorney rule me out of order if it's out of order. I just want to make sure that with respect to the consulting at any time, if this ethics law is going to apply to that. That's all I want to ask. And also, when can I get a copy of the insurance consultant's report? And I also had another problem that I saw in Newsday, that the insurance consultant was also given a bid on insurance. So I have a problem with that, wearing 2 hats, where he's both the consultant and the successful bidder. It's not in the best interest of the town, and I hope that you address that with respect to that.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Greenfield. Rachel Dykeman Martino.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Well said.
Good evening, everyone, tonight. Rachel Reichman Martino, Kings Park, New York. I'm a proud Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter volunteer. I've been walking dogs at your town shelter for the past 3 years, and recently I have started fostering one of your 12-year-old senior cats that has some medical conditions I'm tending to. I also have 2 dogs of my own, one from a puppy mill and the other was rescued from his own bad situation, but both have some behavioral issues due to lack of proper socialization and guidance before I acquired them. Speaking about number 15, the Play for Life group. So although I'm not a professional, like many of my co-volunteers, we do have firsthand experience and understanding of dogs and their behaviors. We are hands-on, true animal lovers and advocates. With that being said, I want to say thank you very much for putting the Play for Life group back up for resolution. It's an extremely important program for your shelter dogs. Tonight, I brought along a photo of your shelter resident and my friend JJ. He is a 5-year-old American Bulldog mix, and today he is 476 days living behind bars in a crowded, noisy shelter, uncomfortable, and very much alone. JJ was given up on by his owners, and he was surrendered to the shelter 476 days ago. He came from a home of almost 2 years with another dog. So now that's 476 days without that dog social interaction he had been accustomed to. Currently, the only socialization he gets is from other dogs barking or growling at him through bars on his way in and out of the shelter to get a breath of fresh air. This is the sad story for many of our shelter residents that are good with other dogs. The Play for Life Socialization Group is a win-win across the board. It will help the dogs continue their social skills and even grow better social skills throughout the learning benefits of this program. All of this will support the likelihood of your shelter dogs being more quickly adopted by broadening their adoptable criteria and allowing them to be adopted by owners that already have dogs in their homes. It will also help to keep them more calm and relaxed because they will be mentally and physically stimulated in the play groups, so when they go back into their kennels, they will be tired. And very similar to tired children, when you have a tired dog, you have a more peaceful dog. A dog that will do better on meet and greets, a dog that will present better in a kennel, a dog that won't be returned after being adopted. And the best part is because of the grant donated by the amazing organization Animal Farm Foundation, it's not going to cost taxpayers or the town one single penny. Hence the win-win. I very much look forward to all of you passing this amazing opportunity and program for your shelter dogs. It can only benefit them in the long run. I truly believe none of you will be disappointed in making that decision. Thank you very much for considering it.
Thank you, Ms. Reichman-Martino. Ms. Liz Fox.
Hi, my name is Liz Fox, and I live in East Meadow, New York. I've been a resident of Town of Hempstead for approximately 45 out of my 50-plus years. I actually made a mistake. It's actually Resolution 15 and 16 that I'd like to speak about. I'm very active in helping rescues, but I also run the disaster unit for Nassau County for the animals, for people's pets. I ran the Sandy shelter afterwards, and we had 517 animals, most of whom came from the town of Hempstead residents. We only took care of the pets, and we did take some dogs from town of Hempstead because they were being overrun with strays. If these animals, I'll start with 16, if these animals were microchipped, we weren't able to find out who the microchip was registered to at the time, but we were able to read the microchips and at least get it when we had internet to find out who they belonged to. One of the things we also need to do is, if we do this microchip program, is to make sure people understand they have to register the microchips. We took in, with one of the rescues, we took in a dog 3 weeks ago from Franklin Square. The dog was starved. It was definitely not a stray dog. It's 8 months old and it still has baby soft paws. All she wants to do is love people. There was no microchip. There was no collar. We did report it to the SPCA, but nobody ever stepped forward, so we couldn't track down whose dog it was to find out why this dog was starved. We were thankful for the construction crew that called us and said, please come get this dog. It's eating out of the garbage, because it saved her life that night, because it was one of those nights that was up below zero. So I'm very much in favor of the microchipping process. And as a rescue person, I also am very much in favor of this Dogs Playing for Life training program. Mostly in rescue, but I know also my dogs are both rescues, and one of them was not adoptable in the beginning because they said he was food aggressive, he was just aggressive in general. Now all he wants to do is be loved, and he gets along with my other dog just fine. With this program, it'll make it easier for people to be able to adopt their animals out, and rescues to help you adopt out the town of Hempstead animals. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Okay, I do not have any more slips on the administrative calendar.
Good evening, Pearl Jacobs, Uniondale, representing Nostrand Garden Civic Association. Item 8, I am in favor, totally in favor of the proposed outside order of the Town of Hempstead Buildings Department. I do empathize with my neighbors whose homes were affected by Superstorm Sandy. I have a friend who's still going through post-Superstorm Sandy issues. But speaking on behalf of Uniondale, the Uniondale community, the homes in Uniondale we are affected by sustained neglect by the departments of buildings. The Uniondale community currently has a backlog of hundreds of complaints, and many of these complaints has been left unaddressed. Until most recently, building code enforcement has been almost non-existent in Uniondale. As I have said many times before, the lack of building code enforcement in Uniondale has strongly contributed to the sustained quality of life deterioration in Uniondale. An investigative audit is required in order to bring about positive change to the buildings department. Perhaps implementation of better practices could bring about an improved buildings department, and only an audit would determine this. So I am solely in favor of this proposed audit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
You know what happened, Mrs. Jacobs? Remember, you asked me to meet with you on three of you on every Monday, and I refused to do that. I could not do that. And you asked the supervisor. So the supervisor said, yes, just talk to my people. So then what happened from then on is the fact that I never got any more of the problems that you had. Didn't come to me, but she had two people who came to your meetings who were there to address them. So everything sort of fell through the cracks. So now you have someone who is there who will report to me, who will check all of the things as far as sanitation and so forth is concerned, and he will give those to us. So we will work with those through buildings, what we need to do. We've always done it that way, and it worked out well. So maybe we should change back to what we were doing. So, I would appreciate that.
Yes, we will speak, and I would like to thank you, Senior Councilman Gooseby, because I was surprised last night that Mr. Roy Gunther, Code Enforcement Officer, he was at our Nostrand Gardens meeting last night, which was very well attended, and I do thank the the town and you and Supervisor Gillen for the Code Enforcement Officer for sanitation.
She did not do that. I got that for you.
But I said you, didn't I? I said you first.
Okay.
Okay, so let's not get into this tonight.
No, I just want to make sure that if you let my office know, we will take care of it because we follow through.
So, we're starting
That's what I'd
anew
like
here, Senior Councilman Gooseby. I've been on the board and Vice President of Nostrand Garden Civic Association for 10 years, and many things have fell through the cracks, but, I can't go back. We can only
No, we're going forward. That's why I'm asking you, please make sure that it comes to the office so that we can address them. It would be
Okay,
much
but I
more
do want
helpful.
on record that I am solely in favor of the proposed outside order of the town of
You can do that. You have a right to do that.
Buildings Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. Ms. Califano.
Hello, Dominica Califano. I'm just a little confused, bizarre of what has happened here with this animal shelter, an individual that you were trying to hire that was suing the town of Hempstead. Is this a way of Anthony D'Exposito giving paybacks to shut people down when they're against him? Me as a taxpayer in Nassau County, it has been a disgrace. Just as your resolution on 17 and 18, while Island Park and Oceanside is underwater, why is this individual getting all this? Could someone explain to me why he is getting this while Oceanside and Island Park is still underwater?
This is the easement. There's a developer and building commissioner. You can.
Do you know who the developer
or Mr. Ra, you know about this. This is about the easement. So a developer is developing condominiums, and Mr. Ra, you can jump in if I speak incorrectly. And there's an easement for an outfall drainage pipe. The developer has agreed to reconstruct a new outfall drainage pipe, so they temporarily we have to give the easement back to them so they can construct the pipe, and then they will send an easement back to us, convey an easement back to us, so that we can monitor and manage the pipe. Is that accurate, Mr. Russ?
Isn't this the individual that also received a street in Island Park? Is this the individual that closed down a gas station, Stand service station, because of his political connections with the D'Expositos? But let me further to talk. us as citizens, as taxpayers in Nassau County, that Anthony doesn't even own a home in Nassau County, why is this person that gives fundraisers and gives money away to him? These are favors that are being paid out. It's the same place as Ted's Fishing Station in Point Lookout with Island Park Fire Department, and Deputy D'Exposito gave away the taxpayers' property and forced Ted's Fishing Station to purchase this piece of property when there was no road name to it. It's the same way as Fatale of this number 17 and 18, when half of Island Park and Oceanside is underwater. How he is pushed forward is because of his big donations to his campaign. It's a little disturbing just to see what goes on as I sit back and as other taxpayers in Oceanside and Island Park are scared to come and speak because of the retaliation from D'Exposito and his clan. It is a disgrace, Laura, and your office is well aware of all that's going on. Half of Island Park and Oceanside is still underwater. Did you walk down Oceanside on did you drive down Long Beach Road, Austin Boulevard? How bad the cars are. His friends that opened up restaurants.
Ms. Califano, this is just about an easement,
I
so
know,
he can
but I'm
build an
just
outfall
saying,
pipe, okay?
Just in Island Park alone on Austin Boulevard, all his friends that opened up restaurants, they're getting favoritism. They park their vehicles on top of sidewalks. Does anyone see, as taxpayers here in Nassau, what is really going on?
If that's happening, please call, and
Your office is well
enforce
aware of it, and so is Anthony D'Exposito's line. When we were called and told the next day, one of the new restaurants that don't even have permits for valet parking, okay, they put cones out. A young girl that was driving got scared, hit the cone, and their valet people said, we're allowed to park here. We have permission from Anthony D'Exposito. This has been going on in Island Park and Oceanside.
Ms. Califano, this is not on the administrative calendar. If you have any complaints, you can speak to Mr. Picnic in my office.
Several times, Anthony D'Exposito's office, we have called, and it's been covered up from the corruption, the dirty connections that they have. If you go down Austin Boulevard and Long Beach Road, you would see for yourself or anyone here.
Who did you speak with in my office?
I will let you know. I have it all written down.
All right, you can
And
speak
Anthony-
with Mr. Pitnick. Mitch, where are you? Is he here? Oh, he's in the back. You can speak with Adina, and she'll take your information. Okay, I do not have any other slips on the Yes, please come up.
I'm Gabby Stracker. I'm a veterinary science student at Barry Tech BOCES.
Good job. Good job.
Hi, I'm Gabby Stracker. I'm a veterinary science student at Barry Tech BOCES. And I hope that you support resolutions 9 and 15, simply out of the best interest of all animals.
Thank you. All right, I do not have any more slips on the administrative calendar. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Ambrosino.
Recognizing that items 3 and 8 have been adjourned pending review by the compliance officer, I vote aye on all the other items.
Councilman D'Esposito.
I vote aye on all other items except for item number 22. I vote aye on all except for the one pertaining to Tim D'Esposito, where I recuse myself.
Councilman Dunn.
I vote aye on all except for item 19. Thank you.
Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
I vote on all except item 19, and 3 and 8 have already been, I don't have to worry about those, okay. Yes on the others.
Supervisor Gillen.
I vote aye, except for item number 22. With respect to Mr. Lang, he's moving from part-time to full-time. This is no comment on Mr. Lang's performance as a worker, or no comment on him personally. However, we are required by court order to move people from part-time to full-time pursuant to a Tosner list. Mr. Lang is not on the Tosner list. We have 30 people that we must moved from part-time to full-time this year pursuant to the court order. Mr. Lang, again, is not on that list, and all we have budgeted for are moving people from the Tosner list. So I vote no as to Mr. Lang. May I have a motion to adjourn? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Supervisor Gillen.
Aye. We will now move into public comment. Gabby Stralker. Caitlin Stracker. Lucille Defina. Felix Procacci.
Felix Procacci, 1165 Barnes Street, Franklin Square, New York. I read in the paper that Councilman Diaz-Bazito was quoted in Newsday saying that we were going to go ahead with another moratorium on the Woodmere Club, even though the judge did summary judgment that it was unconstitutional. Is that true? Are we going to go ahead and try to do another moratorium in spite of the court order?
I believe we're meeting with our attorneys on Monday.
Okay, because it's illegal to do that.
Who's meeting with attorneys about this?
Councilman Blakeman and I are meeting with Rich Regina, our counsel.
Okay.
Okay. As far as the ethics issue, I think that the law fundamentally is good. It's very strong, but there are, like anything else, there are a few weak points that make the whole law essentially moot if you leave them in there. One, I feel that the ethics board cannot be selected by this board. By that, once you do that, the ethics board is impotent, and I think it goes to show. I complimented Supervisor Santino on his ethics law back in 2017. I thought it was great, but there have been no referrals to the ethics board on any complaints, and the residents were not allowed to make complaints in that law, and that was the Achilles heel. It made it so it was a great law except for those items, and those items really make it so nothing's going to get done to improve, ethics in this town. Also, what's missing is a time constraint on when anyone asks for an advisory opinion or a complaint, or whatever, how you want to phrase it. I think it should be both. Sometimes you just want an opinion. You're not really complaining about anyone. There should be a time limit set. And then, of course, like anything else, if the board needs an extended time, let's say we give 60 days, and they need to go more than 60 days, the board has to write a public explanation. It can't be just because we need more time. It has to be detailed where they say why we need more time. We have to interview 20 more witnesses, whatever it is. So they can be given the proper time to do a proper investigation, but I think a time limit should be set. And one last thing, we have a court date. I have a court date with the town attorney tomorrow. He didn't show up, 3-4 weeks ago, and I just want to clarify that we do have a date at 9:30 with the court, and if you're not going to show up, I'd like you to let me know now so I don't waste any more time. So, Mr. Ra, are you going to have anyone at the court tomorrow at 9:30? No, there was an appearance necessary. Thank you so much. It said appearance date. I got a notification and an email. I actually called the court because I was surprised too, and it said to show up, and that's why I showed up.
Thank you, Ms. Procacci. Jill Cohen.
Dear Supervisor Gillen and Town Council members, my name is Jill Cohen and I live in Belmore. I have been a volunteer at the TOHAS for 3 years. I have had many shelter buddies adopted, but these past few months, the TOHAS has been on a roll. I have never seen so many empty cages in all my time volunteering. I attribute this mostly to our amazing adoptions, foster, and rescue staff, our trainer, Christy Fancy, and the behavior team. The other part of the adoption equation are the awesome sponsors we have showcasing our dogs on social media. These people have full-time jobs, busy lives, but spend hours of writing, engaging posts, and promoting TOHAS dogs for free. These are the true animal advocates. They ask for nothing in return except for perhaps some pictures of their sponsor dogs' Freedom Ride photos as they leave for their forever homes. I'm going to tell you about a story about my buddy recently adopted. His name was Biggie. He is a Cane Corso that came in as a stray in August 22, 2018. He arrived in really bad physical shape. He was underweight at 85 pounds. He had kennel cough. His eyes were infected. He had trouble walking. His legs would shake if he stood too long. He looked and acted older than 5 years he was estimated to be. He was tended to immediately by the veterinary staff and put on a nutritional diet. He was well cared for by staff and volunteers. Fast forward 6 months. Biggie gained weight. He pranced on the trails during our walks. He even loved to drop and roll on the grass. His most favorite thing to do was to play in the yard with the big blue ball that was too big for his mouth. He was finally looking and acting his young age of 5. 2 wonderful women who have sponsored many TOHAS dogs fell in love. They saw Biggie's photo and knew they had to get him the help to get him adopted. I call these women the dynamic duo. You would think they were on the computer 24/7 the way they promote, post, share, and answer questions from people who show interest in the dogs. We have what was called the Team Biggie. This past Thursday evening, I was in my house and got the word that Biggie was going home. Biggie's adopters saw him on Facebook's sponsor page and came to meet him. It was love at first sight, and Biggie left for his home that very night. The dynamic duo has done it again. This was a great story of a dog that went from rags to riches thanks to people like these amazing women who do it for the love of the animals. I will leave you with a quote from Biggie's new dad. I have heard that dogs choose their owners. I thought that was just something people said until I saw this cinder block-sized dome turn the corner and head right towards me. Welcome home to the better half of your life.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. Phyllis Federici.
Good evening. My name is Phyllis Federici. I'm a Nassau County Town resident, and I'm also a volunteer at TOHAS. I am here again tonight to talk about the shelter and especially Christiana Fanti. At the last town meeting, someone said 4 out of 5 of Christiana's certifications were proven false, and if anyone wanted to see the proof, she had it. That statement really bothered me. I said, how could this be? So I did some investigating, and I have made copies of what I have found, and in my opinion, I feel these documents may prove that statement may not be totally true. Christiana has accomplished many good things in the past 2 years since I have been at the shelter, and I believe it would be prudent to extend her contract so she can continue this good work. The enrichment program, which I am personally involved with, is going very well. The day foster program is also a great success, despite what anyone who is not directly involved may say about it. It is not a members-only club. There are very strict criteria that must be met for everyone's safety. The program is again being offered to more volunteers who are interested and who are qualified. We are very proud of these programs, and I say we because at the last town meeting, I submitted the names of 48 other people who feel the same way about Christiana. Christy, along with Matthew Gooding, Jackie Penjo, and Melissa Fogarty, work so very well with the dogs, the cats, the staff, the public, and the volunteers that we should keep this momentum. These are compassionate, caring people who, despite what is written on social media, have only the very best interest of the animals at heart. Come and see for yourselves. Call, make an appointment, meet with these people. see their interaction with the people and the animals at the shelter. I would also like to thank the many other caring, hardworking staff at the shelter. These folks come to work every single day. They do a fabulous job with very little, if any, gratitude. So I think we should all thank them. And I would also like to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Federici. Rita Meriday.
Good evening. I wanted to discuss at this point in time just kind of a follow-up with regard to the building department and Senior Councilwoman Goosby's point about what the state of that office, and I have been down there, so I don't need the tour. I agree that they really need to have resources in there. They need space, they need better equipment, and they need the supports to do the job that needs to get done. I would also request or ask that the town start to look at some of its relationships with the unincorporated hamlets, of which Baldwin and others, the county. I mean, I go to the county meetings, as many residents know, and when they have the report from the Committee for Towns, Counties, and Villages, and I've been going to the county meetings for a number of years, there's nothing on the page. That in itself is appalling for the fact that we pay all of these taxes, we pay all these resources, and everybody speaks about how this is the largest township. You know, Nassau County is so huge. We've got over 80,000 veterans. We don't have our own designated facility for veterans. Even the veteran services, the page is blank. Minority support, the page is blank. I think, as Felix Procacci asked earlier, if he should appear at a hearing, if there's going to be a representative, I just want to know. And, you know, the majority of you are here except for Councilman Blakeman, but is there going to be some real change, some documented activity, some real movement with regard to stepping up efforts for our veterans, or should I just stop wasting my time coming here? I received a letter today from a veteran in Bayville who I've been helping to basically try to keep in his home since 2013. And he thanked me for my efforts on his behalf with regard to the state court to help him keep him in his home. He lost his wife due to the stress of the foreclosure process that he was involved in. She died in his arms in 2013. I never had a chance to meet her, but I did speak to her over the telephone. He had a bankruptcy court hearing today. I was not able to come, but I did follow up with someone who is assisting him to find out that there was a delay in that. I stood there with him with a clerk, you know, under the great flag that, you know, Councilman Dunn is always worried about. If we got to make sure there's a flag. I try to make sure that they have a home. I try to make sure that they have a job. I try to make sure that the students stay here when they get out of these illustrious colleges and institutions. I've delivered food, diapers to our veterans on weekends on my own time and dime. And if you read in this particular article about the lack of diversity and what happens to people like myself who try to fight the system, even though I have 2 degrees, and that type of the type of discrimination that impacts me and my own opportunities to make money because I continue to fight and fight back is detrimental. But I'm not going to stop. I'm just saying I'm going to stop coming here, because if it's going to be a waste of my time, and the record has shown, because nothing really has changed, I will stop coming here and continue my work outside to make sure that our veterans have a roof over their head, that the widows who can go to visit Greenfield Cemetery and that their husbands' plots are watered, that I also had to advocate before this body. And I know that I'm out of time, but again, you don't have to answer the question, because the lack of action will speak volumes for me. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your advocacy for our veterans. Christy Persig?
Good evening. I'm Christy Rasick. I reside at 268 Floral Parkway in Floral Park. Thank you so much for listening to my plea tonight. I am actively involved in the Village of Floral Park. I've been past president of the Wednesday Mothers Club. I am delighted to say I'm a mom of 2 daughters, 13 and 15, and every Friday my girls have the chance to walk into town, have some pizza, enjoy the sweet shop. In the summer, they bike they're into the village, enjoying the pool, and they're very independent. My husband and I are really shocked about the expansion of the Belmont project that's going on. Mark and I always think of the village from the story, It's a Wonderful Life. It's like Bedford Falls. The kids are safe. We have wonderful community and people that we enjoy. I believe in 2006 and 2007, your committee right in front of me voted down the flea market that was proposed. You thought leaders thought it would be too dangerous to have 8 to 10 visitors a day or 1,500 people at a time. And you unanimously rejected that project. Today, they are looking at, I believe it's 18,000 visitors at the arena, and then maybe another 20,000 people in the shopping center. Oh, I forgot the hotel, the Hard Rock Cafe Hotel, that'll be coming too, with 250 beds. I'm here because I'm disturbed, and Councilman Ambasino, I read your letter when I was sitting back there for the last 2 hours, and I agree, we need a full-time train station, and I see that in your notes, and I agree that this project needs to be looked at. But what's most disturbing is that you, in front of me, have the power to bring a vote tonight to pass a resolution that they should look at this project. If you bring a resolution tonight, and you have the power to do that, this would empower the ESD to have a 2/3 vote when this project moves forward. We're not opposed to the project itself. We're opposed to how expansive it's gotten. In the meantime, if you call Richard Brown, I've sat at meetings with him from Sterling Equities, he has stated he will build it, they will come. But he has absolutely said every project he has done, it's not his responsibility to put the infrastructure. Last week we had 150 speakers at the in Elmont. 1,700 letters were presented to you. I ask you tonight, Laura, what are you doing about it? Ed, what are we doing?
Mr. Ra, can you comment on the legal, do we have authority to stop any development at Belmont?
The issue here with Belmont, with the current development, is different than it was with the flea market. This is state-owned land, but it's a state of New York project. Ordinarily, what would happen if they were going to do construction, our building department would contact the state and say, someone has to look at this structure to make sure it's sound. And the state invariably says to us, the state dormitory authority, which is charged with doing state buildings, is going to handle this. Once they tell us that, we are out of it. That application will not come before this board. We will not have any jurisdiction over it.
You have no zoning, so they can build whatever they want, and everybody that's been voted in here we have no representation there at all.
That's not true. Let me give you 2 caveats.
Yeah.
To the extent I agree with Town Attorney Joe Ra, and thank you for being here. I share some of your a lot of your concerns. Your issue is better placed with County Legislator Szilagyi and County Executive Curran. Your concurrent jurisdiction is the Nassau County Planning Commission. They can have, in rare circumstances, concurrent jurisdiction, not the town of Hempstead. So I respectfully suggest, and I'll join with you, and my letter does relate to that, County Executive Curran and County Legislator Szilagyi should call on the Nassau County Planning Commission to look at this project. That's the appropriate jurisdiction. So I'll gladly join with you, and it says that in my letter, by the way.
So when is it happening? They having our vote in the next...
Call County Legislator Szilagyi and County Executive Curran. It's their planning commission, not the town of Hempstead.
I'm asking you, well, Gillen, can you help us too?
We have no jurisdiction.
We can advocate on your behalf, but we don't have jurisdiction to exercise zoning controls. That's correct, Mr. Ra and Mr.
That's correct.
Ambrosino?
That application will never come into this building.
Before the town board or the Board of Zoning Appeals. It's entirely within the province of the state.
I never want to sit here before you in another year and tell you about how many children are going to get hurt and how unsafe crime is and what's happening in
Have
our
you spoken to
small
Legislator
town.
Salages?
I've spoken to everybody.
No, but speak to him.
All these meetings. I go to all those
I know
Elmont
you do,
meetings.
but it's their, call the planning commission.
No, I need you guys to do
I
it
did
too.
it, right? It's in my letter. I
Ms.
asked the
Reisig,
planning commission.
I did appear before ESD to advocate, and maybe some of the people on the board did as well, to advocate on behalf of the committees about the concern about a lack of traffic study, about the concern about the impact on Elmont and on Floral Park with traffic. I didn't think that the rerouting with Waze is sufficient way to address those traffic concerns. So you were there when I spoke?
Yes, we spent through 2 hours tonight talking about, pets, and I agree with that. I'm a big animal lover, but this is such a huge thing. Everybody up there should be like insane as I am, and I have many other people here that like to speak too, but everybody's passing the buck, and it's going to be a debacle. If you cannot drive down Plainfield Covert now, taking your kids to religion, and you know the answer to the project, people? Christy, learn how to carpool. I carpool now. But when we have soccer, Girl Scouts, religion, dance, you name it, much less go in the grocery store, their answer to me is, you should do it during the day. I work during the day. That's not my responsibility. I cannot believe 10 years ago you voted down 10,000 visitors and everybody here is okay if 40,000 people come down Hempstead Turnpike, Plainfield. You should be crazed. You should say this is not going to happen in our area. And how much money is coming to our fire, police, and going to protect us? Nothing. Zero.
I don't think anybody here is saying we're totally okay with that, but we're trying to advocate, but we don't have jurisdiction to stop what is happening there. What we can do is advocate and try to support the people and the residents that we represent, and that's what we're doing.
We don't feel as much support as we need.
Senator Kaplan, Assemblywoman Salages, and Senator Kaminsky. It's a state project. And talk to Governor Cuomo. It's a state project.
They don't
It's
answer
not-
our phone calls.
I know, but Senator Kaminsky
So you
should.
know that if you look at the original RFP, which was, we're going to put a little arena, and now it has exploded. We are going to be meeting here a year, 2 years from now with how many deaths and issues?
You should talk to Senator Kaplan, Senator Kaminsky, Assemblywoman Salages, County Legislator Salages.
And are you doing that on a daily basis like we are?
I sent a letter. I asked them to please intercede. Absolutely. They are the people who control this project.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you. Stuart Kroll.
Good evening. Stu Kroll, Great Neck. I'm going to make this hopefully short and sweet, at least short anyway. I've heard some disturbing allegations regarding the adoption of animals from the Hempstead shelter. It seems quite evident that some animals are being held for certain favored rescue groups. This is very disturbing. Apparently this applies even when there's a highly adoptable animal with much interest in it. For groups receiving such preference, I'm sure the status quo is fine and they don't want to change anything. I won't even say that they're not good rescue groups. They may very well be. A good adopter should be the ultimate goal, not giving the animal to a group when there's actually somebody willing to to adopt it. I've also heard some very disturbing allegations recently of animals being adopted out without revealing serious medical issues to the new owner. I think that's very, very disturbing. Anyway, Laura, I hate to bring this up again, but I will. Have you sent out another memo regarding our good friend Mike Pastore? Since he wants to leave, he said you sent out a memo that was 8 months ago. Where do we stand now?
I think the board is very much aware of the memo that I sent out, and they're free to follow up on it anytime.
Send another memo. I mean, the board seems like reasonable people.
I'm sending a verbal memo. If you'd like to discuss Mr. Pastore, please feel free to reach out to me. How is that?
That's great. Is there anybody that wants to keep him, given the fact that he wants to leave? I can't imagine there would be. Well, according to his lawyer, apparently he wants to leave. So maybe you know better, but that's what I was told from his lawyer. So, no, I'm sure he is. Anyway, Laura, I suspect in some way, congratulations are in order. Your situation has improved markedly since you took office. You ran on a pledge of helping our animals, transparency, and eliminating nepotism. Since attending your first fundraiser, the animal advocates that now you've shunned basically and ignored at every turn, you know, and I'm happy I was one of them at that time. Everybody paid $75 for the privilege of standing there with you. The other attendees were all employees of the Democratic Committee, you know, who of course paid nothing. By strange coincidence, many of these people were now hired by you to work for the town. Some of them were kind enough to be joining us here tonight, so my greetings to them. No doubt they were the most qualified people available after an exhaustive search was conducted. You know, I don't want to disturb anybody, so. You have 3 minutes. Oh, thank you. You know, anyway, it just seems to be very, I just read about some large donations from real estate people. I won't mention their names. One was $15,000, then the head of the Sands Point Preserve donated $10,000. You know what, I just think this sets a very bad tone. And, you know, I'm thinking instead of continuing with my trading, maybe I should go back and become a real estate developer. I mean, this is all totally legal, but I think it sets a very bad precedent, and it makes people wonder what the priorities actually are here. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you to all my animal shelter people in purple for all the incredible good work that you do and for helping us get so many animals out of our shelter and into forever loving homes. We've done a great job together, and I thank you for your continued support and your hard work and your dedication to the animals of the town of Hempstead. Gabby Hoffman.
Good evening, Gabby Hoffman, 333 Halsey Avenue in West Hempstead. Long-time listener of the meetings, glad to finally make it in person. Can't usually make it on the morning meetings. So first, I just had a question about the ethics board. From what I can tell, there's nothing about how they're chosen in terms of, I know the board makes the choices for who ends up on the ethics board, but what qualifications do you look for? How do you find people who are chosen to be on the ethics board?
Mr. Leventhal, are you here?
No, he left.
Oh, he left.
You find people on the ethics board by interviewing various candidates. They know that we'll get resumes and we'll interview the candidates.
So there's an open request. Anyone want to join the ethics board? Kind of thing? Okay. Thank you. Next, I just, you know, I don't know if you're aware in the news, but there was another anti-Semitic attack in New York today in Liberty. A yeshiva was burned down with swastikas painted on it, so it wasn't an accident. And a little bit after Pittsburgh, I reached out to some of you to request help in getting funding for the synagogues in the area. And I want to thank Councilman Aaron Blakeman, even though he's not here, for actually getting back to me. Some of you did not. I don't want to call out names, not what I'm here for. And I do want to thank Councilman Ambrosino for showing up to our local unity get-together. It really did mean a lot to us. Councilman Blakeman has informed me about an upcoming grant meeting that is forthcoming, and I'm going to be attending that. What else is the town of Hempstead prepared to do to help us? We really need some help. The amount of money we've seen that this security is going to cost us, it's kind of out of our budget as nonprofits. And to be honest, you know, it's not something that we're taking lightly. We have a lot of volunteers doing this thing. I happen to be on the volunteer force helping to do security for our synagogue, but we really need help. And the one thing we keep hearing about, I literally called every single elected official from Senate down to get information. And everyone keeps telling me the same thing. There's this New York State grant, and that's about it. Is there anything available from the town of Hempstead besides advocating for us with this New York State grant for security to help us with security? That's all we're hoping for, and we have you fill out a proposal of exactly what we're looking for and everything like that, but we really need some financial help.
So around the High Holy Days, we did have our public safety try to coordinate with Nassau County PD to step up patrols around areas of worship to try to just mitigate and ease the minds of some of the congregants who wanted to worship, that there would be stepped up patrols. So that was one thing that we did. Certainly, I think everybody here would share the desire to try to reach out and to try to do what we could to help mitigate this problem and to help give a greater sense of security to our residents of any faith. And so, you know, it's something we can look into. If you have any suggestions or any specific ideas, we'd be welcome to take them, and we'd like to work together with you to try to see what we can do to help.
I appreciate it. Certainly drive-bys, more often drive-bys. I mean, I would put this way. Very rarely are there attacks on the high holidays because the police are everywhere. I'm not saying that kind of level of security, totally get that, but definitely more often drive-bys would definitely be helpful. And again, I don't know about grants. I don't know about funds. I don't know about things in the budget. I know about, what's going on with the budget from the state and our budget being cut. But anything we can get, both in guidance, help, and financial would absolutely be appreciated, not just for my synagogue, but I'm sure all the synagogues in town of Hempstead.
Just to follow up to something that the board did bipartisanly, it was passed by all of us sitting up here, is we made sure that we funded the local auxiliary police units, which I know many of your events, they come. I think your commanding officer of the auxiliaries is Neil Rosenblatt. Yeah, okay, so, but whether it's the 5 towns, whether it's West Hempstead, whether it's Oceanside, East Rockaway, all of us up here have voted, and it's been done in years past, to fund the local auxiliary police units to increase, their ability to be at different events, especially when it comes to days that the police department are tight on resources. They're an added set of eyes and ears out there.
It's definitely appreciated. Thank
Mr. Hoffman, Alexa Sherrill, if you could just raise your hand. She's from my staff. She's do community outreach, so you could reach out to her, and she'll be happy to follow up with you.
Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.
If I could also add, if you could speak to, if you haven't already, Rich Ramos on the front row right here, if he could raise his hand. He handles grants for the town of Hempstead, and he's been instrumental in the district that I represent, reaching out to different temples. So maybe he can be of help for you as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Sure.
Mizral Torres? Misal Torres?
Good evening. My name is Misael Torres. I live at 84 Superior Road in the village of Belrose, and I'm here also to petition you guys just we understand that you guys have limited jurisdiction on the issue of the Belmont project, but we need you guys to be a strong voice for us. There's no jurisdiction over your voice. We need you to be our megaphones, because if we're not getting our calls answered at the state level, I'm pretty sure that your calls would be answered more promptly than ours. My children are 8 and 6 years old, and they go to Floral Park Belrose Elementary School, which is just a chain link fence from where they're extending the project to what something more than it was originally. And that's on the north side, and on the east side is the other school that my kids are waiting to go to, which is Floral Park Memorial High School and Junior High School. And to have an extra 40,000 people showing up on a daily basis, it's a danger. And I understand what you guys had mentioned before, but I echo the voice of my neighbor. We have to do something before it's too late, because when things start to happen and around bigger sporting events or whatever else, there's a slew of things that happen. I mean, they just busted a ring of sex trafficking in Atlanta right the week before the Super Bowl. This is something that we don't want to anticipate, but we can't be blind to it. So, having the high school across the street from where this huge project is intended to take place, and then in the backyard of an elementary school, it's very, very concerning. And whenever there's the Belmont Stakes, my town, the village of Belrose, is overrun by cars from people who aren't residents, because it's close to the racetrack. So that's the amount of people that are going to be coming around to that project daily. And our streets are closed, and just to run a regular errand on a day like the Belmont Stakes, our roads are closed. So we have to go through detours and all this other stuff. So it's going to be taxing on the residents logistically and everything else, but also on the police department, like it was mentioned before. And when we need more of a police force, then how are we going to get the money to do it? How are we going to have more money to hire more police officers and have patrol cars? Because the need is going to be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jessica Alfani.
Hi, I'm Jessica Alfonsi. I live in Floral Park, and I know I heard what you just said, but you say Belmont project is out of your jurisdiction, but our village believes that not only Nassau County, but the Town of Hempstead Board can exercise jurisdiction granted pursuant to Section 626 of the New York State UDC Act and recommend either disapproval or modification of the proposed project.
Mr. Ra, can you get us a legal opinion on that, please?
The key word there is recommend. They may ask us for our opinion. We can comment when they do the environmental review. It's a comment, recommend. We have no power or authority.
Well, we're not saying that you can stop this, but we're asking for you to do that and recommend that this project needs to be modified or maybe, rejected completely by doing your own independent study. And I believe that the mayor sent you letters, Supervisor Gillen hand-delivered not only the over 2,000 letters from the residents, but they delivered more of all of the legal verbiage.
But just so you understand, it is, the recommendation is just like, it's an opinion. It doesn't have the force of law.
Right, but the 15,000 people in Floral Park will take anything that they can get right now to help us. Because right now, we feel like there's nobody helping us. With all the respect in the world, Supervisor Gillen, we really appreciate you coming to the hearings. But saying that they need a train station, I mean, that's the tiniest bit of this. They want to destroy the whole area. And poor Elmont. Elmont doesn't even have a mayor. They're not organized like Floral Park is. They need you to help them. You're their mayor.
We've been meeting with residents from Elmont on a regular basis.
And that's great, but, everybody sort of wants to step aside and not really fight this fight with us. And everyone's saying, talk to Kaplan and talk to, the state officials when they won't talk to us. And Empire State Development, they are saying they have this robust community process, and it's a lie. It's not true.
I will be happy to try to facilitate a meeting with your group of residents and State Senator Kaplan.
Thank you. I'm on the Belmont Task Force, and, I keep reading articles about the Nassau Hub, and I just feel like, I hear words like laboratory space and educational space and open space, and they're getting things like Sloan Kettering, and we're getting significant adverse traffic impacts that will be unavoidable and unmitigated. They get a community benefits plan, and we get, Freedom of Information Act requests to Empire State Development that still remain unanswered. I mean, we've sent them stuff in October that they still haven't answered. And when the study's been out, we know they have the information. The answers have been given to them. They've put it in a study, but they haven't given it to us. They get open public space. We have Belmont Park. They're destroying 5 acres of the historic backyard area and replacing it with sidewalks. They get a project that bolsters local economy, and we get retail space that, according to Empire State Development, would not serve to meet the needs of local residents. There's a payment in lieu of taxes. We're getting zero compensation for additional demand on our police. This cannot be a time-limited process. It's too rushed. This was supposed to be about the Islanders coming home to Long Island, not destination shopping. We want the area revitalized, but the infrastructure must support this. This is going to be a mess that you are going to have to clean up. Town of Hempstead is going to have to clean up. I mean, I won't even mention National Grid's possible moratorium on new projects if the pipeline isn't improved. I mean, this affects you and the surrounding communities. That's all under your jurisdiction. I understand this plot is on state land, but this will, the aftermath of this and the effects of this will affect you, and you'll have to clean up this mess. So we just ask you, please, however you can support us, by writing a letter, by saying you're against the scope, that they shouldn't have gone out of the RFP area, whatever you can do, that's all we're asking. We would just
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
If you would just see Rebecca Sinclair in the back over there, if you see she's wearing a bright pink shirt, give her your contact information, and I'll get in touch with you on behalf of the group to try to facilitate that meeting with Senator Kaplan.
And more would have been here tonight, but we had a town board meeting at Floral Park.
I know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Valerie Lamb.
Valerie Lamp Baldwin. Sylvia, I wanted to let you know because I was there at the press conference with you, Diane Madden, and several or most of the board members back in July, I believe, regarding the bilingual forms. I just wanted to let you know, as of my last visit about 2 weeks ago, there's about 3 of them available out of maybe 15. And one of the most important ones regarding the litigation case of Yankee and Cece, the 2 dogs that were euthanized, the euthanization forms are not still in Spanish. So, I know that you want that, and so do I. Supervisor Gillen, instead of interrupting me, I'll just ask you flat out so I don't get the, childish disruption of 4 votes, 4 votes, 4 votes. I'd like to know, what would you do with 4 votes?
Pass resolutions.
Such as?
Hiring a consultant to oversee the building department.
I'm talking with regards to the animal shelter. When I bring up the abuse and the mismanagement and the patronage jobs that you campaigned on, you interrupt me and you say 4 votes, 4 votes. I'd like to know what you're referring to.
In order to get anything done, we need 4 votes.
What would you do with 4 votes?
You have 1 minute and 45 seconds left.
Another nicely dodged question. You're an excellent sidestep.
I've already answered your question. I'd get
No, you
resolutions
didn't.
passed.
Not at all, not at all. But anyway, this is just a rough draft of something I'm working on. Almost 2 years ago on the steps of Town Hall, a candidate was announced who promised good for all. Amongst only colleagues, one who got her name wrong. One person stood with you in the rain, she stood strong. The words which caught her ears were in front of the animal shelter. You acknowledged the abuse and promised to make it better. Now you're taking it all back and you're trying to backpedal. If lying was a sport, no doubt you'd have a medal. The irony is this: the ones who had your back are the very same people who you now attack. And so you used us, and we couldn't care less. Our loyalties to the animals, not to you, princess. What's more, your meetings so horrifically run, they seldom start on time, and yet for you they appear fun. The Jerry Springer Show and the circus. The Jerry Springer Show. It's called freedom of speech. It's called freedom of speech. The Jerry
Don't call
Springer
out, please,
Show.
Ms. Califano. Let her have her 20 seconds, please.
Anyone?
Ms. Califano, please don't call out. Let her have her 20 more seconds.
The Jerry Springer Show and the circus is in town. The only things missing are popcorn and a clown. But we will see this through and we will make it right. We look forward to November celebrating your last night.
Ms. Califano, did you want to speak?
Laura, I'm sorry. It's a disgrace how they attack you and how they flip-flop. Is this the $9,000 kickback that he's giving Diane to give her a job to go against you? Is this what's going on? Because Diane and all them were totally against Santino and D'Exposito, how dirty they were, and Garrett Gordon that was attacking them and making it impossible for anyone to adopt animals from this shelter. Throughout the county, the town, no one wanted to go near this shelter for everything that was written about this beautiful shelter and these poor animals because of them people. They flip-flop back and forth. D'Exposito has a way of words and how to pay people off, and this is how he rolls. It is a disgrace how they speak to you and to any of yous up there. But by the way, the building department, I just want everyone, since we did talk about the building department, a few of your inspectors, I'm going to say Adam, Ralph, were suspended with no pay for doing their jobs, for giving out violations to people in Oceanside and Island Park that were politically connected. I think that is a disgrace that your poor building department workers were suspended for that. You need to speak to your workers, and Mr. Ra is well aware of it because his calls went to his office. He's part of the corruption here, and it continues to go on.
Okay,
Our building department...
Mr. Ra, there is an open investigation with respect to that allegation, is there not?
Of course not.
No idea what she's talking about.
Okay, you speak to Adam and Ralphie and a few of your other building department inspectors. They're not allowed to give violations out to Oceanside and Island Park. They have. Go speak to them personally. They were suspended, and these kids don't make that much money. There was money taken off their family table for doing their jobs in Island Park.
Please have them reach out to my office if they'd like to file a complaint.
I think they're scared because of retaliation.
Well, they can reach out to my office.
Okay.
Directly.
I will try to speak to them. The other thing is there's a few animal rescues in Island Park. This woman's been thrown out of Freeport, thrown out of Oceanside. She's in Island Park. It's on 4413 Austin Boulevard. What goes on in this animal shelter is horrendous. It looks like plastic bags are on their windows.
Are you talking about our animal shelter or the rescue in Island Park?
Rescue in Island Park. It is absolutely disgusting. I saw dogs falling off.
Please stop yelling out from the audience. You're warned once. If you yell out again, you'll be asked to leave.
There was animals on cages over cages over cages.
Where's Jim? I got it. Thank you.
The cages there, it was horrendous. They had sewer drains put in that they washed the dog poop and urine in our soils. There's no permits there for over a year. She's been working there. She's a big donor to Anthony D'Exposito's campaign, and this is why she's running it with no permits for over a year. The animals there are not safe. They were out the other night. All the neighbors there called the cops on them. It was freezing out. The dogs were howling. It was cold. They're on blacktop ice. It's horrendous. Please, Laura, I really need you to look into this.
Thank you for your comments. You can follow up with my office. Amy Kelleher?
Hello, Amy Kelleher. I'm actually a resident of Floral Park. I'm with Jessica and several of the other speakers. I'm not going to read my prepared statement just because I feel like a lot of it's been covered by what they had said, and I understand now that you'd have no direct jurisdiction over this matter. But again, I'm representing Floral Park and my family here, so I feel like it's, a good thing that I want to have something to say. I actually live in very close proximity to the north lot of the Belmont Park. I mean, like 2 houses down. So I moved from Queens about 3 years ago and have enjoyed a really nice, quiet life in Floral Park. And it's everything they've all talked about. It's a beautiful village, very safe. My kids love it. And now it's in danger of becoming, a real issue of where, people may not be as safe. There's going to be pollution. There's going to be traffic. And again, you may not have jurisdiction here, but I think the state is going to be creating a big mess that's going to be yours to clean up. So I think that, if you would get on board with us and do whatever you can do, we'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Rory Gordon?
Rory Gordon, Hauppauge, New York. Laura, I read the RFP for the building department, and I went to the website and I did my due diligence on the company that you're interested in hiring. The type of audit that this company provides, I believe, is more applicable to streamlining and saving money for the town, as the example you provided in New York City. I know in your heart you mean well. However, the town of Hempstead is in this position due to the negligence of the commissioners of the building department. No system was put in place from the beginning to handle this massive Sandy project. A good management team should have had addressed that in 2012. While the building department is is tremendously understaffed as far as inspectors and code enforcement officers are concerned, with a budget of $8 million, I believe, in salaries. It is clear that management is at fault. You heard the complaints tonight from the constituents. Do you think it's a coincidence that the building department is such a disaster? Seriously? I'm sorry if I came across a little strong earlier, but this is truly how I feel. Now, my question to you, which I asked earlier, but I know we were under real tight time constraints tonight, has the Department of State been notified of the severe mismanagement of the building department? I know you have to go to the commissioner to try to make this package work, but I don't think this package is what you should be doing. I believe the Department of State should be sending forensic investigators in to sort out all the malfeasance. I've been doing this for a really long time. You're a newcomer to the game. And it's bad, Laura. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And if it wasn't for the news reports to bring the people here tonight, this would have never been uncovered or done. Everything gets pushed aside, and it's wrong. Do you understand my opinion now?
I understand your opinion, and I understand your concerns.
Okay. I mean, I get where you're coming from, and I know from your heart you're trying, but I don't think that's the answer. I think an investigation is absolutely necessary because the corruption is out of control. Yes, it is. Thank you for verifying that.
Please don't call out Ms. Califano.
I mean, it's very bad. I mean, we're going to have this ethics code thing. Nobody abides to the ethics code that's on the books today. What makes you think by you guys spending hours and hours it's very nice, but nothing gets enforced? Nobody is held accountable. There are people in the building department that have businesses, and they are doing business and getting their permits pushed through because they're in the building department. And I'm talking about managerial people. And I can show you, and I can prove it, because you always say, show me the proof. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Christine Martin?
Good evening, everybody. How are you? I just want to start off with saying I'm sorry for what you have to deal with. I'm sorry that you were polluted with certain things when you were running for your campaign that may have clouded your judgment, that obviously you see the truth with certain things now, which is why you sway the way you do. Unfortunately, some of your counterparts haven't learned that yet and thought it was a better idea to put $9,000 into a pocket of an activist, but not move $9,000 into our training program. That was okay to think of where money should go there, but not where it actually needed to be in our shelter. If you want to talk about programs that our shelter needs, why don't you come in and actually speak to the people that are in there all the time, working there all the time, not just people that don't get their way, so they come and they rant and scream and degrade you and insult you and then try to put money in your campaigns and then come knocking on your doors throughout the week. Come down and actually talk to the staff about what we need in our building for our animals.
But we've been reaching out to the staff on a regular basis since I got into office. Rebecca Sinclair and now Jim Lockaruba works actively with all the members of the staff of the animal shelter and with our volunteer communities to find new programs, find better ways to serve our animals and improve our shelter every single day, make it the best shelter around.
Just for clarification, you made a suggestion that, I don't know if it was me or someone else, that we accepted money from people. That is undoubtedly false, and you can go through my entire campaign.
I didn't make that suggestion.
You just said make campaign donations.
No, they sit here and all they talk about is how we gave you money, we gave you money, we gave you money. Guess what? I gave you nothing. I didn't even vote. I think you're doing a great job, and I would never sit up here and scream that you're a princess or a criminal or a liar or listen to things that I read online that call you a high school slut. Like, this is what grown adults do. Children that don't get their way, they attack.
That's what some people do.
It's disgusting. It's truly disgusting, and I'm sorry you have to deal with this, and this is how you have to.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I very much.
But thank you for supporting our shelter and seeing through what was clouded in your judgment at one point. I totally appreciate it.
Thank you, and I appreciate the hard work that you do very much, all of you. Thank you. Pearl Jacobs. Rich Shuren.
Richard Shuren, 167 Jefferson Avenue, Hope Royal. On January 23rd, dozens of my neighbors, the school superintendent, the principal of the middle school, and all the board members attended a Town of Hempstead IDA meeting and spoke out against the request for a pilot by the developer Avalon Bay, who was also a part of Basilico Group. The project concerned the 10-year-old, the project that's been going on that the Town of Hempstead was in litigation with for over a decade. I'm happy to say the Town of Hempstead IDA voted it down 3-2. But then, shortly after the meeting, the executive director, Fred Parola, indicated that there was a misunderstanding or there was some information that the IDA members didn't have and that they planned a revote and they planned to take it up at the next meeting. So as the gentleman from Floral Park so eloquently stated, you might not have jurisdiction, but you have a voice. It's the same for my issue. You might not have jurisdiction over the Town of Hempstead IDA, but you do have a voice. And I would ask you to communicate. I mean, this board and this previous supervisors have said that they thought that the project was not suitable for our community and would lead to all sorts of expenses and problems for us. So I'm asking you right now as a board, and individually if you want, to speak out and say you're against the, and you hope that the Town of Hempstead IDA does not revote and grant them the pilot that they're requesting. So I'm asking you, Councilman Ambrosino, you're very familiar with IDAs. Would you support the community against this pilot? Okay. Councilman D'Esposito, would you communicate your support of the community? You won't support your Harbor Isle constituents? Okay. Councilwoman Gooseby, will you support us? Supervisor Gillen, will you support us?
I mean, if I have to look at, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, so I would be happy to discuss it with you, but I'm not going to commit to an answer until I know all the facts.
Well, I just feel, and I'll ask you, do you feel the same, Councilwoman?
For fear of being repetitive, yes. I mean, I don't represent the district. I'm happy to listen to your concerns, and I also think Fred Pearl is a good guy. I'm not into criticizing people without knowing all the facts.
I mean, I just want to parrot what the people from Floral Park said. You know, you have a voice, and you might not have jurisdiction over things, but when it affects the community and the community members take the time, in my case, dozens of people came to that meeting and opposed it, and people here from Floral Park, you have a voice. And even though you might not have jurisdiction, we'd like your support. And, it would be nice to hear you say for once, we support you, we're with you. That's all.
Rich, I'd be happy to follow up with you and find out more information about exactly what you're talking about and discuss it with you further. And I just want to let you know that I have sent representatives from my office to go appear before the IDA on certain hearings, and so I'm not afraid to let my opinion be heard.
Thank you.
Melissa Jaffe.
Melissa Jaffe of Merrick. First, I wanted to thank Councilwoman Sweeney for, for canceling on the meeting. I had a family emergency, and thank you for having Alex and attorney reach out to me.
Happy to reschedule, whatever works.
Thank you. First, I really just have like a bunch of questions to ask you. Do we know when the shelter will have a new assistant director? Because I know that there's been.
We're interviewing people right now.
Is there a time frame when they'll be?
What is the time frame for the interviews? Are they ongoing right now? This week.
So We should have an answer by the end of the month.
Hopefully, yes.
And what about Christie's contract? I mean, it's not really fair that somebody's working, minute to minute, as volunteers, as people who work there, we all respect her. I know that there's a few people here that don't like her and complain about her, but that's one or two people, and the majority of us. You know what? I really wasn't rude when you guys spoke, okay? So it really would be nice if you just kept your mouth shut. Okay, great.
It would be nice if the gallery could just be quiet and show respect to the people who are speaking.
Okay, this is who you sit and meet with. Okay, that's great.
Please, Ms. Califano, stop.
So
Please continue.
Do we know anything?
We are looking at Christie's contract. I believe she's one of the people who's also interviewing.
Okay. So tonight, there was a gentleman here who asked about security for a synagogue. I think that the shelter should give the security that we have at the shelter to the synagogues, because the security at the shelter is doing absolutely nothing. A dog was stolen out of the main lobby by people sitting here in this room.
Who stole a dog from the shelter?
Well, I'm not going to say names.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter who it was. It's on camera.
Okay.
And the dog was stolen, wasn't even allowed to be chipped, as this dog Milo, that was found after 6 years, was allowed to be chipped. And that's who some of you are supporting. A dog was stolen, and the security guard is sitting there on his phone watching a video while it's all going down. And it didn't happen outside the shelter, it happened inside the shelter lobby. And it's on video. Okay, and in regards to the Schnauzer, a lot of us really kind of want to know what the truth is. I was told that you had nothing to do with it because I was accused of putting up a Facebook post calling you out on something, which I 100% did not do. So I want you to know face to face.
Yeah, I appreciate
that
there
I had
was
nothing
a couple of posts quoting me talking about the Schnauzer. So 2 weeks ago, I had a lot other things on my mind than a Schnauzer. No disrespect to the Schnauzer. I had nothing to do with the Schnauzer, for the record. So just to clarify that.
And just to clarify, there is a story going around, so it would be great if the volunteers knew who was behind that, because unfortunately, the finger is being pointed at you. So, and if it is your staff that did it, then it would be great. And I don't think that you had anything to do with it. Honestly, it's, whatever.
Yeah, I guarantee, Marcus, do we know anything about the Schnauzer? I mean, so I'm not trying to make light of it. It just was not top of my mind 2 weeks ago. Can we look into the Schnauzer or whatever happened with it? I do love Schnauzers, but.
Well, as soon as we would appreciate, though, as soon as we knew about Christie's contract, we're all learning a lot and doing so much from her. And just today, we were out on a foster day, a few of us, and an application is actually going in for that dog from the foster day. So it really does make a difference.
Thank you. We'll keep in touch with you, of course. Dennis McInerney?
Dennis McHenry from Floral Park. I am on the task force for Belmont Park. Thank you for having the meeting in the dark. But we believe in Floral Park that this board passing the buck misses the mark. While it is technically accurate that the town of Hempstead has no direct jurisdiction over the two sites under the control of the ESD, which abut Hempstead Turnpike. That is not correct for the entire 425-acre Belmont Park campus. As a matter of fact, the town of Hempstead has zoned the Belmont Park campus all for residential for over 100 years, and that is unbelievable. It is time that the town of Hempstead do its job and get a master plan with zoning and particularity in place. In April of last year, I met with this board and urged that each and every one of the members write comments regarding the DEIS, the scoping document. Unfortunately, it appears that only Supervisor Gillen took advantage of that opportunity. Then most recently, although there were 3 separate days of hearings, again, 3 minutes just as this, only Supervisor Gillen took that opportunity to speak publicly about the DEIS. I again ask this board, each one of you, to put in written comments related to the DEIS. The New York Arena partners are proposing that they use parts of Belmont Park that are not within the 28 acres south of Hempstead Turnpike and the 15 acres north of Hempstead Turnpike. That is directly adjacent to the Village of Floral Park. Please, as you did again, Mr. Ra, with the flea market, assert your jurisdiction as much as possible. I would also like to quickly discuss that at my last meeting, we discussed the lame duck resolutions that were passed in December of 2017. And at that time, it was said that it would be inoperative during fiscal duress. Now, the state of New York has taken a hole into the budget of the town of Hempstead of $5 million. And I'd like to know, in light of the $5 million shortfall that was not anticipated, whether the town of Hempstead will, in fact, find that CSEA resolution to be inoperative due to fiscal duress.
We haven't evaluated that at this time. We're also we're waiting for the decision from the court.
I would suggest to you, Supervisor, that one way to solve the problem would be to eliminate the 193 jobs minus the 30 due to the court order, and that would fill that gap. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McEnany. Regina Datner.
Hello, Ms. Gillen again. Regina Datner. I live in Wantua. Just a quick question. Would you ever be thinking about getting any more handicap parking places for the people coming in, potential adopters? There's only one there. I spoke to Mitch, and the zoning people, building people went over and they said that there wasn't enough room. I can't understand that. I've seen people coming in walkers, people of age that had to park over at the middle school, looking a little exhausted when they got in there.
Okay, I'll speak with Mr. Reed about it, and we'll follow up with you and let you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you, everyone, for your time again.
Thank you, Ms. Datner. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Speaking of apologies, I think you should apologize to Councilman Ambrosino for insinuating he's not a gentleman. We may not have always agreed, but he has been a perfect gentleman for the many years that I've been here. As far as the animal shelter, I am really happy to report that, much like the letter Dolores Stormo sent out, a letter was sent out to get the selfies and the photos and the texts while the animals are being handled under control. It is no longer permitted. But the unfortunate part is we have warned the board about this and not enforcing that code of conduct for a very long time. What's unfortunate about it is that in closing it says, we have also had several dogs reported to us that have eaten debris, plants, or toys while out on walks that we then have to send them to emergency treatment. This is something that a behaviorist or a trainer should be overlooking, but has failed to do that. In regards to the animal shelter and the empty cages, I hope at some point all of the cages are empty in that animal shelter, but understand that some of the ways that's being done was done, in fact, tonight, when the by 100%, the owner turn-in cost was raised. So, you know, that works both ways. I hope that no animals end up in that animal shelter. But at the end of the day, you're going to have a problem when you're allocating $5 million tax dollars to an animal shelter with no animals, because the animal shelter is there also to serve the community and its needs. I do have a report here. I believe you all received an email from me, every council member. I would like these to be distributed so that it's on the record. These are held up, this report, in the court of law. So I would like everyone to have a copy of that, unlike some of the manipulated paperwork that's been handed in to the board. This is the real deal. As far as the training, I just would like to know who is going to oversee that, unlike many of these programs that are discussed that are discriminatory because they exclude, they're not inclusive programs. One of the reasons they want things just the way they are is because many people have been discriminated against. And when you talk about 48 letters, or even Matt Hines told me, oh, they wrote 85 letters about you, big deal. They wrote 85 letters about Dolores Stormo, and she just won a major victory in an arbitration because the arbitrator apparently saw right through it all. Also, Laura, you mentioned what your liaison had done and hanging your hat on a grant. Grants have been written for many years. I am hoping now with Mr. LaCaruba, real things can happen, real improvements can happen, the discrimination will get under control, and everyone will be treated equally. And I am delighted that we now have someone overseeing the contracts, because the last contract that was passed by this board, $109,000, was a fraudulent contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel Martino?
Yeah, just before you speak to, just real quick, I saw sad news that the Commissioner Bakich's mother just passed away, so I just wanted to share that with the employees here. Commissioner Bakich's mother. So keep his family in our prayers tonight.
JJ again. So Rachel Martino, Kings Park. I just want to say that I've been a volunteer for 3 years now, and I have seen amazing changes. Things are really moving in a positive direction. Not quite sure exactly who it is, but it's happening now, and that's really what matters. So with that being said, I want to share a story about my friend JJ and the benefits of keeping Christy Fanti as the trainer at the Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter. 476 days ago today, JJ was surrendered by his owners to the shelter. Although Christy did make attempts to work with this family, they refused the help. So he is now your dog at the shelter. He is a brilliant dog that needs proper training, stimuli, and socialization. He gets very excitable with pent-up energy if he isn't mentally challenged and properly exercised daily. He is not aggressive at all, but for those that know bulldogs, the best thing I can say is he's a bulldog. I myself have my own bulldog at home. I think that's why we connect so well. With that being said, JJ was presenting some issues exiting and entering the kennel for his walk time. And mind you, this is a common occurrence. There's all sorts of different behavior issues going on with these dogs. So once he's out with his volunteers, he seems to do very well. But on the in and out, it's not fun at all. So JJ ended up on Christy's radar, and she took him off the volunteer walk list. Myself, along with his other buddies, were extremely worried about him. Christy reassured us that she just wanted to take some time with him and get a protocol together that his volunteer buddies would have to adhere to help train his focus, impulse control, and being able to exit and enter his kennel safely. Soon after, Christy met with each one of JJ's volunteers buddies and walked us all individually through his new protocol. It has taken a while because we all need patience and understanding, but I'm happy to say that JJ not only has better impulse control upon entering and exiting his kennel, but also while out on a walk. Christy's protocol, in conjunction with the volunteers' efforts in following the protocol, along with the communication between all of us, has really shown a tremendous change in a positive way for JJ. He's actually happier, he's more receptive, his impulsivity is more manageable, and his focus with his handler is on point. He truly is brilliant, and he should be doing agility and competing. He's very eager to please and very treat motivated. Christy saw all of this and didn't give up on him. All of these things will help him present better on a meet and greet, help him in a home as well. JJ is only one of hundreds and hundreds over the past few years that have come into the shelter with some type of behavior issue. And let's face it, they're not robots. Kudos to Christy for managing hundreds and hundreds of different dogs for the past handful of years. Imagine being the only doctor in an emergency room with over 100 patients. My only wish is that we had 10 more Christies to manage the amount of dogs that we have in the shelter. I also want to mention quickly that the last meeting I brought up that the question about training protocols for new staff, and I did speak with Mike Pastori, the director, and Christy, and they actually have been implementing meetings with new staff. So that was just really good to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel.